everyone. Welcome to the Carson City School District Board of Trustees meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. We are going to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. And we're going to start off with adoption of the agenda as submitted, and this is for possible action. Okay, motion by Trustee Walker, second by Trustee Walt. Any board discussion? See none. Any public comment? See none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 2, adjournment to closed session per NRS 288.220 to discuss labor relations with the district's management representatives for discussion only. And at this moment, we're going to go into closed session. And if I can remind everyone to turn their microphones off. to a regular public session. It is 6:31. And we're going to continue with our agenda item number 4, flag salute. Trustee Walker, if you can please lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Trustee Walker. And before we continue with the agenda, I will ask everyone if you can please join me for a moment of silence in memory of 2 members of our district community who passed away in the last 2 weeks. We are sending our deepest condolences to the family of a middle school student who lost his life at such a young age. And then we are also sending our condolences to the family of one of our former teachers, Adrian Freeman, who taught second grade at Fremont and Mark Twain. She also served as a substitute teacher. Prior to that, she taught at WNC, ESL classes, and GED preparation. So needless to say, she was passionate about helping our future leaders. So again, if you can please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Again, the district is saddened for the loss of these community members, and we will keep their families in our prayers. Thank you. Okay, continuing on to agenda item number 5, superintendent's report for information only. Superintendent Feeling.
Thank you, President Ramirez. We have some recognitions this evening. I believe Mr. Sakalarius, Ms. Gustafson are here to present some HOSA winners.
I just have to comment. I don't think I've ever seen Frank wearing pants, let alone a suit. So you dress up nice. Well, and I think that tonight it probably works out well because he's dressed nice to take his wife out for her birthday. So special night.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I think every year you tell me that. I know you can. Thank you. Superintendent Fueling, thank you for allowing us to be here. We appreciate that. For the record, Frank Sakalarius. We're here to make a report on our future health professionals, our HOSA group at Carson High School, who recently competed in their state leadership conference. Our program took 74 students, 3 advisors. Our 3rd advisor, Ms. Caroline Gabica, who was a former student of ours. We all attended the leadership conference March 5th through 7th at the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno. Our chapter earned a gold level 100% membership award for 100% of our health science students as registered HOSA members. Carson High's own chapter vice president, Maria Benshoof, was elected the 25-26 Western vice president. She will be working with the Nevada HOSA state officer team promoting Nevada HOSA. She will be attending leadership trainings, including the Washington Leadership Academy in the fall in Washington, D.C., and hosting the 26-27 Nevada State Leadership Conference in Las Vegas. Our CHS HOSA students competed in a variety of different medical competitive events against over 1,400 Nevada students. CHS HOSA had 66 students advance to the second round and 40 qualified to attend the International Leadership Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, June 18th through the 21st, including 3 state champions. The top 5 in Nevada qualify to compete in internationals, except healthcare issues exam, which is the top 25%. CHS HOSA's own Ann Davis won the t-shirt design, and Kellen Moyle won the pin design. Our chapter awards were gold medal 100% health science members. our State Officer Marie Benchoof. In healthcare issues, Gabby Ayala, Hannah Budd, Leah Card, Elizabeth Dow, Roman Carlo Gonzalez, Joanna Gonzalez Cortez, Riley Halcon, Roberta Juarez Razo, Ethan Lenahan, Adriana Olivas, Lily Perez Martel, Jeremiah Urbina, and Isabella Wright. In Nurse Assist, which is a health profession event, Haley Satterwhite took fourth place, and in sports medicine, Hannah Budd took first place. In emergency preparedness events, in CPR first aid, Vivian Canedo and Joanna Gonzalez Cortez took fourth place. In our National Geographic testing, I'm going to ask you a stupid question. What does ATC certificate stand for? You don't have to read that. Okay, I'm not reading that part. That's the part I'm not in charge of. I put them in charge of that one. But in those events, in general chemistry, Renan Malasagan, Mariana Suriava, and in occupational health safety, Fabian Asun, Brett Weiser, Melissa Bonilla, Elizabeth Dow, Anais Gallegos, Araguen, Sydney Ingram, Anna Mariquin, Tristan Prasadio, Vanessa Rodriguez, and Genoa Squilante, all qualified. At this time, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have the students that are present, if they can, come up and introduce themselves and tell you what event they got and what place they were in and what event they competed in. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. Thank you.
I would like to invite the parents to come and take pictures of your children if you would like to. You can come right behind us.
Hi, I'm Kenley Fassett, Kennlifasett. I am currently a senior and I place third in forensic science.
Hi, my name is Anna Mariquin, ANA-MARROQUIN. I placed third in forensic science. I also placed for healthcare issues and was a finalist for National Geographic testing, OSHA.
Hi, my name is Callie Stagliano, Calistagliano, and I placed fifth place for CPR and first aid.
Hi, my name is Kellen Moyle, Kellynmoyle. I'm a junior and I placed fifth for CPR and first aid, and I also made the pin design.
Hi, I'm Sienna Mohandro, SIENNA.
Can you get closer to the microphone, please?
Sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Sienna Mohandro, SIENNAOMOHUNDRO. I am a junior in high school and I qualified for healthcare issues.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Alexa Ailes, and I'm a junior in high school, and I qualified for healthcare issues as well.
Hello, my name is Nasiah Perkins, NASIAPERKINS, and I qualified second for health career display.
Hi there, I'm Maria Benchoof, MARIABENSHOOF. I placed second for healthcare display as well. I also qualified in the healthcare issues exam, and I was also elected as the Western Region Vice President for the state of Nevada.
So just a reminder, you don't have to spell your last name. Yeah. Or first.
Hi, I'm Kira Mulvihill. I'm a freshman and I qualified for the healthcare issues exam.
Hi, my name is Dante Mora, and I qualified through healthcare issues as well.
Hello, my name is Omar Martinez, and I also qualified for the healthcare issues exam.
Hi, my name is Tristan Morrow. I qualified for healthcare issues.
Hello there, my name is Neva Mello. I qualified for the healthcare issues exam, and I took the title of state champion for forensic science.
I'm Vivi Mello, a junior at Carson High School. I placed in healthcare issues exam and placed first in forensic science.
Hello, my name is David Hurst. I'm a junior at Carson High School, and I got second in medical reading.
Hi, this is Febia Supervisor, and I qualified for health issues exam.
Hello, my name is Ann Davis. I'm a senior and I placed first in home health aid, qualified for the healthcare issues exam, and I designed the t-shirt.
I'm Emma Smith, and I'm a sophomore, and I qualified in the healthcare issues exam. I'm Sophia Slakova, and I qualified in physical therapy.
Hi, my name is Mary Lou Hernandez. I'm a sophomore, and I placed in healthcare issues exam.
Hi, my name is Mariana Sarabia. I am a sophomore in Carson High School, and I placed for healthcare issues exam and general chemistry.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Bonilla, and the event I qualified for HOSA for HOSA Nationals is healthcare issues.
Yeah, press the button.
Hi, my name is Maria Betancourt Ledesma. I'm a sophomore at Carson High School, and I qualified for healthcare issues exam.
Wonderful. Now we give everyone a big round of applause. Comments from the board? Richard?
If I can get the mic turned on, but congratulations to everyone. And who's planning on going into the medical field?
We're in good hands.
Who's planning on doing elder care? Nobody? All right. But anyway, congratulations, and I know our future's in good hands with you guys. Whenever I hear people saying that our young adults are not where they should be, I look at you guys and I say, they're definitely wrong. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Anybody else? Michelle?
I was talking just a minute earlier today to Ms. Robles, the coordinator for all the CTE stuff, and I was talking to her specifically about HOSA and some of the programs that are available through it and the career readiness. Like, a lot of you guys will be hireable, like straight out of high school, for the things that you're doing, and that is incredible. So an applause to those that coordinate those programs, but also an applause to you guys for having the initiative to seek them out and not just look for, oh, what looks fun, but like, what's going to get me ready to just launch straight out of high school? And you guys are doing that. And so keep it up. Keep being awesome. We're proud of you.
I want to congratulate you as well, but I want to ask you guys, how many of you are going to WNC? Raise your hands. Wonderful. How about UNR? Wonderful. You guys are saying local. I love it. Well, and I also love and I appreciate that there are, it's a very diverse group. And I would assume that many of you speak Spanish, and I think we need a lot of Spanish speakers in in the health professional field. So I appreciate your guys' effort in making a difference out in the community. So again, to everyone, congratulations.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Sakalarius, can we start a program of study under HOSA for elder care based upon that question?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Congratulations. Would we like to get a picture of the group as a whole up in front here before we get out of here? Okay. So why don't you guys all...
Congratulations to the parents too. You guys should be proud of your kids. Very nice. Should we get out of their way? Oh, we're going there? We're going there? Yeah?
So when I went home,
Darn it.
Almost.
The party's over.
that was a lot of people. Okay. Last item for the superintendent's report, just 2 words. Bandorama, Choirpalooza. Bandorama happened last Thursday. It was amazing. Choirpalooza will happen this Thursday. It'll be amazing as well. So if you are available to be at Carson High, I think the start time is 6 o'clock. That'll be good. So that's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Superintendent Feeling. Agenda item number 6, board reports, board member comments, and this is for information only. We will start off with our student representatives. Carson High School representative, do we have one? No? Pioneer, we do have our loyal Pioneer representative. Come on up, Kaylin.
You remembered my name this time. I'm so honored.
I'm getting there.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, good evening, members of the board. My name is Caitlin Nguyen, and I will be presenting Pioneer's announcements for this week. Our third quarter is finally coming to a close, which means that events like dances and our spring break will be coming soon, and they'll be boom, boom, boom. They'll be coming in rapidly, and they'll be coming in consecutively. We didn't want our students or teachers to get overloaded, so we're going to work on motivating them to keep the train rolling and keep it pushing until the end of the school year. We've been working on prize raffles and we've been working on grade checks, and they've been mostly successful in motivating our students to work. Our You Matter Week and Pate Night were big hits among the students. If you remember the thrilling presentation I gave you guys 2 weeks ago, I told you guys on Wednesday that we'd be making dog toys out of recycled clothing. Some leadership students, while they were taking place in that, they asked questions and now they want to schedule a field trip for leadership to the Nevada Humane Society because they want to play with the dogs, but they also want to make a difference and help the community. So we're working through the application process with all the paperwork. And the interesting thing to me is that leadership students are filling it out themselves with some help for the bigger, more hefty, more professional stuff from the teachers, which means that they're getting some real world experience on how to fill out paperwork, which I know you guys are very familiar with. Results have also come back from the district's speech and debate tournament, and that means that they said that several members of our team have qualified for nationals. We're waiting to hear back about their decisions, but I want to say, since the district tournament was the last tournament they'll be taking place in for this school year, I hope they know that I'm very proud of them, and everyone who's supporting the debate team is also proud of them, because if I was told that I had to argue with people and talk to people recreationally, I think I might actually cry. But not only do they do this regularly, and they do it for fun. It's like, wow, okay. Our PE and health science teachers wanted to raise awareness about details of real-world issues that weren't already included in the curriculum. So we have been working with the Nevada Counter Drug Program, and we will hear from Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and we will hear from the Health Services Department of Carson City between now and the first week of April. We will also be coordinating with Mills Park to set up a class period long session of pickleball, my favorite sport. Thank you, everyone. This is Caitlin Wynn signing off.
Thank you, Kaylin. Appreciate it. Okay. Nevada Association of School Board, NASB update. Trustee Varner?
Yes, good evening. I really don't have much tonight. Kind of early reminder to put on your calendar, May 17th for the next professional development. It's going to be on cybersecurity, and it's going to be held up in Virginia City. And I also gave you a flyer that Rick Harris sent to me this morning, and it's about maybe some of the benefits of attending other board sessions, just to kind of see how they operate, give you a little bit better insight on maybe what's going on. And that's really all I have for NASB tonight, unless Mike has something.
No, just in a week and a half, I guess. Trustee Varner, Peterson, and myself will be going to the national conference. So hopefully we'll have some good professional development to benefit not only the state, but also Carson City. So anything of note that we gather, we will share when we return.
Yeah, one other thing that I forgot to mention a week or so ago, our last board meeting, is recently I was selected to go on by the governor to sit on the leaders and teachers and leaders council. And that basically is a council that looks at maybe updating the evaluation system for teachers. And the first meeting that I'll be attending will be on May 31st. And then I'll brief everybody after I have that meeting.
Thank you, and congratulations for serving on that board, on the committee. Okay, wonderful. Announcements? Michelle?
All right. For Carson High, I only have two quick things. The father-daughter dance is coming up. It's April 25th is father-daughter dance, but the 24th, 25th, 26th, they in preparation of prom, the gym gets decorated, and they have 3 events back to back. So Thursday night, they call it the Friendship Ball. It's where the kids that are in the specials department, they get their special evening out. They get to have a prom, and those who are peer mentors through the school get to come and party with them. And so they have a special prom just for them. And then Friday, in the same atmosphere, same decorations, they use it for the father-daughter dance. And then Saturday, the 26th, will be prom for senior prom. So I love that they do that. I love that they utilize it. It's a lot of work to prepare for that prom. And so I love that they have found ways to use that space and to utilize those decorations for more. Tickets for the father-daughter dance are on sale. It typically does sell out. So if you haven't gotten them yet, you're encouraged to do so. They're available online. I'm not sure that there's a single spot to find it, but if you I think maybe Carson now might have it. Angela Golick's page for sure has it, but get those tickets. And then the other thing, Carson Leadership Academy through the chamber, they've officially demolished the ticket booth at the football field. It is gone. That was kind of a fun one to watch the videos of. It is a blank slate. There's been a lot of community involvement, a lot of very generous community support, some pretty major donations to help make that happen. It's been a lot of work, a huge undertaking, and it is officially underway. So they're excited about that. Mark Twain, they've got a handful of things. Book fair this week, SBAC next week. The PTO has just designed a new sweatshirt with a new logo for Mark Twain that they're selling through the Parent Square app they wanted us to know about. The other two things, they have a muralist coming in. There's a big wall along the music room that bends down a hallway. And, you know, the murals that come through Carson City, they've had that event a couple times. I know it's slated for a third one, are going to, sorry, I just got distracted by a text. My husband just broke a bone. We'll get to that. The muralists who have done the murals around Carson City, some of them were made available for the teachers to all vote and choose which muralist they wanted to. They got to look at their designs, and so they got to choose which muralist is going to come be a part of that. And then he's going to take feedback from them about what best represents Mark Twain and what they think belongs on that wall. He'll come with a mock-up, and they all get to be a part of choosing what's going to be on that wall. So that's kind of cool. The other thing that's kind of fun, they have a big attendance initiative going. Each grade, if they can get up to 93% for this month, and each month has a new incentive. And so this month, if each grade can have 93% attendance by the end of the month, they get to choose one of four things. They can do rock, paper, scissors war with Mr. Rodina. They can have a dance break at recess where he has to go out and dance with them. They can put a pie in his face, or they can make him endure mystery jelly bean tasting, including the gross ones. So that's fun. And then they have a bigger initiative. If by the end of the year, school-wide, they're at 95% attendance, he'll shave his head. So lots of exciting reasons for the kids to attend, if nothing else, to watch Mr. Rodina be tortured. So
No kidding.
that's it for Mark Twain.
That's exciting. Rebecca?
All right. Well, Fremont has a new Falcon mascot costume. And so he's been making appearances around the school, and the kids have been excited to see him and spot him. So just keep looking out for that. The energy that it's generating is really fun to see. And then parent-teacher conferences, of course, are going on, so encouraging parents to come in for those. And yeah, it's going really well. They're having really good conversations on students' progress and growth. So thank you to staff and families as well for all the support and your kids learning. So
Good stuff. Thank you. Richard?
Before I start my report, I'd just like to encourage anybody who has a daughter in school to attend the father-daughter dance. It's a lot of fun. I didn't have a daughter, but I had 3 granddaughters that I was able to go with them in the past, and just a really great time. So I would encourage anybody, if they can, to attend that. They always do a great job. For Boardwalk Bray, Principal Raqueta wanted everyone to know that SBAC testing is taking place on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. It'll be starting next Monday and continuing through April 10th. They know the students will do their best and will be successful. They wanted to thank the parents for encouraging and ensuring that their children get a good night's rest before and are at school each day of the testing. And also, she wanted to remind everybody that it's not too late to get your tickets for the Boardwalk Bray night at the Aces on April 25th. Please see Parent Square for the link. As a reminder, the choir will be singing the national anthem at the event. So everybody should attend if they can. For Fritz Elementary, Principal Brown and the staff would like to thank their parents for taking the time to meet with the teachers this week and being part of their children's education. He would like to also thank the teachers for preparing the conferences and making and meaningful for the parents. He would also like to remind everyone that Friday night, this coming Friday night, is a night for the Tahoe Night Monsters hockey game. A certain amount of the ticket sales from Fritz families will be given back to their PTO. If anyone needs information regarding the game, please contact the Fritz office. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Matt?
Tonight I'll be reporting on both middle schools. Say thank you to Ms. Robinson and Mr. Connolly for joining us tonight. Look forward to your presentations as well. The update from Ms. Robinson at Carson Middle School. She states that the wrestling team just finished their season strong. Carson Middle School brought home 3 first-place champions from the Taniva tournament, with one selected as outstanding wrestler. They had 2 second-place finishers, 1 third-place finisher, and 1 fourth-place finisher. The team also brought home the Capital Cup last week from the Carson Rumble. Congratulations to the wrestlers and the new wrestling coach. The students did a great job at Bandorama last week, and they're very proud of all their hard work. And the choir students perform with the rest of the district this week at Choir Palooza. And finally, the track season has begun. The 6th graders have their first track meet at CMS next Thursday or this Thursday? Next Thursday, okay. See why she's here, thank you. And correct all my mistakes. And from Mr. Conley, he says that they had earned $460 for the Alzheimer's Foundation fundraiser. Students are showing great success in raising their MAP scores compared to the winter and fall, so that's good news. And Eagle Valley has had an awesome wrestling season, with 7th grade taking 3rd place overall. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Matt. Molly?
Yes, so for Empire Elementary School, Empire Elementary School in the Wild Horse Children's Theater are presenting Good Manners, a medieval quest for polite behavior for all students and families on Friday, April 4th at 5:30 p.m. At Empire Elementary School. This was a fun and educational musical production that is combined with SEL curriculum to help entertain and teach lessons on helping out, staying positive, and interacting with others. So again, that's April 4th at 5:30 p.m. at Empire Elementary School. For Parks and Rec, there is a meeting coming up on April 1st. Those of you who are interested in disc golf, there's going to be a presentation on by the Carson Ridge Disc Golf Park, which is moving forward as well. And then also there's a presentation on the draft of the East Lampa Ranch Dog Park Concept Plan, which is somewhere near the high school as well. And then I just wanted to, never mind.
Thank you, Molly. Mike?
Guess it's getting late, huh, Molly? It's getting late. So Sealiger Elementary School started their SBAC testing today. So they did some science with their 5th graders. And, you know, one of the things that any educator will tell you, so Molly could probably back me up, that those tests are just as stressful for the teachers and the administrators in the building as they are for the kids. And kids don't always understand exactly what happens with those test scores. And there's a lot of reassuring them that they're not going to fail because of a test score. So one of the things that Sealiger is doing that I really think is great is they have families sending inspirational notes to the kids. And so then they have those to read. And she sent me a couple samples so I could see some of the things that the families are sending to their child. And I think that's great. And I think that that's something that, you know, we are required to give these summative tests by law. And they are a good measure of progress over time, but it's not the only measure of learning. And I think that we need to frame it as such for students, that it's a show what you know, and we should see growth from one year to the next. And, you know, I think we need to remember we deal with young children, and part of their growing into adults is to learn the the place, the value of assessments, how to take assessments, and the meaning of them, and not to let it cripple you, because it is just one thing we have to do. So good job to Seeliger.
Nice. Thank you so much, Mike. Okay, and I don't have anything from the school, but I do want to apologize. I neglected to mention this earlier, that we do have a phone number for families who are in need of mental health. They can reach out to the social worker's office at 775-283-1533. I meant to say that earlier and I neglected to do so, so my apologies. Okay. Agenda item number 7, association reports, and this is for discussion only. Do we have anyone from the association? No? Okay, no association reports, okay. And agenda item number 8, public comment. Do we have in-person public comment? You do. Okay, wonderful. Then I will go ahead and take that public comment in person, and then we also do have an online public comment. So I will go ahead and invite Jessica. Did you have a, yeah.
Good evening, President Ramirez, members of the board, and Superintendent Fueling. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Jessica Garcia, education reporter for the Nevada Appeal. For approximately 6 years for my current employer, in addition to my general news coverage, it has been a privilege to cover issues impacting pre-K through 12 public and private schools, higher education, and child care programs in Carson City and Lyon County. Tonight, I come before you, as always, maintaining a strong conviction that freedom of the press and the journalist's ability to report on federal, state, and local governments and boards are essential for a community. Additionally, state school board members are essential in supporting local interests and representation and bear great responsibility overseeing policy adoption, budget approvals, reviewing curriculum and academic standards, among other roles, and I deeply respect their part on the local level. However, with the recent changes occurring to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education and the shifting of programs that have relied on federal funding, it is impossible to ignore what's happening on a national scale. And I feel compelled to keep a watchful eye and continue reporting on these issues as a community journalist. The federal government provides Nevada K-12 schools about $993 million in funding. Nevada consistently ranks in the bottom 10 of states in per pupil spending. And although the governor's 2025-26 budget is helping to increase K-12 spending, rural schools continue to be among those most affected, with fewer resources to operate while providing access to a quality education to which all students deserve equal access. In the past 2 days, we've already seen swift cuts to various resources that serve students across the nation. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has terminated more than $8 million for agreements that would provide fresh produce to schools and food-insecure populations. The President states federal Pell Grants, Title I funding, and other funds for students with disabilities would be reallocated to other departments, but there is still much to be answered about the expertise needed to continue with these services. I am coming to you tonight to ask for a response before the next school board meeting with the district's upcoming tentative budget discussion taking place about potential fiscal or academic impacts to the Carson City School District. I have made frequent requests of the administration since January to answer questions about what to expect in general or whether specific programs might be affected so that the community can remain informed and to help families in the best way possible. I thank the Carson City School District and the school board for working with the Nevada Appeal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it. Okay. Any additional in-person public comment? Seeing none. We do have an online public comment, and as it is stated on our agenda, we don't read the comment email to us. We will just disclose the name of the person who submitted it, and that comment was submitted by Carrie Finn. and her comment will be included on the permanent record. Okay. Agenda item number 9, presentation and discussion. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Before I do that, I neglected to say we are now closing public comment. Okay, so agenda item number 9, presentation and discussion on possible introduction by Carson City Department of Juvenile Services in coordination with CCSD school resource officers to implement an intervention/diversion process inclusive of possible student anger management and community service aimed at diverting criminal charges to students in an effort to reduce student fights and possible citations attended thereto. We welcome Superintendent Feeling and Linda Lawler and Sergeant Taylor Miras and Miss Christy Perkins. And this is for possible, for discussion only. There's additional people. I apologize. So I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves.
Sure. Kelly Brandon with the Carson State District Attorney's Office.
Christy Perkins, Director of MTSS and Student Wellness for the school district.
Linda Lawler, Deputy Chief, Juvenile Services.
And Sergeant Taylor Maris with the Sheriff's Office overseeing the SRO program.
I know Kelly is worried that I'm going to cough on her, so I'll try to stay over here.
Yeah, scoot over. We're all staying away from Superintendent Feeling. He's sick. We don't want to get sick.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone being here tonight. Behind me, too, is District Attorney Garrett Pruitt, who attended our little meeting to have a conversation around kind of what else can we do? What else can we do to better support our schools to be safe places and to try to get better outcomes for kids in the end who do make a bad choice, hopefully to make better decisions in the future regarding fighting in school. And so while we know that overall across our secondary schools that fighting is down, it still happens. And so what else can we do? So Taylor Miras, kind of the sergeant there, far corner, kind of started the conversation and led to getting together a group of people who are really creative and innovative and thoughtful and kind of came up with a plan. So we didn't really rehearse this show, so I don't know, maybe Taylor, if you'd like to kind of talk a little bit about your thoughts and we can get into details.
Yeah, so this kind of came to my attention a little bit more when we had an incident involving 11 students all at one time fighting over something so small and minor, which happened to be spilt milk from a week prior. Obviously, 11 students is going to cause quite a disturbance in a school, and ended up having hundreds of kids surrounding that. And it was like, what could we do with everyone as groups to come together and have some sort of immediate action for the students? So it's in the back of their mind that we'll be able to resolve our issues over, spilt milk, for example, that it wouldn't lead to such a big instance. Threw out a lot of ideas. Everyone's hands are tied in their certain areas. And I think we came up with a pretty good plan to add some immediacy to this, so it would at least be an impact that would be a lot sooner than we issue a citation for a battery. It gets through the courts in 6 to 8 weeks. If there are services that are needed for the students through juvenile probation, that process just takes so long. So what can we do to impact the students? What would be in their mind that, okay, is this really worth fighting for? Are there other ways that we could go about the situation? So I don't know who wants to go next.
So I want to thank Taylor for bringing this topic up and having us discuss it and brainstorming and working with the Deputy DA, Kelly Brandon, and our senior JPO. I think we came up with a really great idea so that we could address this issue immediately and give meaningful consequences to the youth that are involved in a fight. The school obviously can only do so much from their point. And the school resource officer, our plan is if there's a fight, the school resource officer will give a citation for the battery, and they will make sure that the student and the parent knows that that battery, you're given a citation in lieu of getting arrested. So we want to make sure that there's immediate consequences. So the immediate Saturday following that fight, we will host a class so that we can do community service and intervention to address anger management and conflict resolution. So this is meaningful and this is immediate, and hopefully the kids will learn something from it. It may take a couple tries doing that, but that's okay. We'll provide the staff, we'll do it at our office, and it is mandatory because they're getting this opportunity by getting a citation instead of getting arrested. If they do not show up, then our office will notify Deputy DA Kelly Brandon, and she'll issue a writ of attachment for their arrest. They'll come into custody, and then we'll do immediate sanctions from there. More than likely, a contract and force them to then take the class. But I'm hopeful that this response will get through the schools, and we'll see even a more reduced fights in the schools. That's our hope.
And from the lens of the district, we have put in those preventative pieces to reteach students that there are other options to dealing with conflict besides a physical altercation. We have social workers, we have counselors, we have mediators available at the school site. We have Safe Voice for if you feel you might be in a fight or someone is bothering, bullying, harassing you, you can put that in anonymously. Those are responded to immediately. Your administrators and law enforcement are informed immediately when there is a tip put into Safe Voice. So we are reteaching those processes to our students. We're starting this at the high school. We started this week on Monday. And then we're hopeful the program is successful and we can roll it out to our middle school level as well. Once we make sure we have the staff and the process and make tweaks to that, and we'll go from there. But we are hopeful that it will be a positive intervention for students to reduce that physical altercation. We really made this decision based on looking at our student data when they take those surveys, and there was a high percentage of students who said they sometimes don't feel safe at school. And we thought this might help reduce that, that they would increase their safety at school. From a mom perspective, even when I mentioned this intervention to my own teenage daughters, they said, well, good. And I said, well, if it's you, it'll be you going as well. And they said, well, that's fair. It's for everyone who is a part of a physical altercation. It creates a disturbance at school. And they were excited that the school was responding so their school feels safe.
And from the DA's office perspective, I've seen a pretty significant uptick in violence in schools since COVID. Really, we had a pretty significant change. And I think there's been a lot of efforts put in place by different staff members to try to address how do we get services, how do we get youth to understand that this is not something that they want in their school. My hope is that with this program, we can do two things. Number one, we can help them give back to their community. Community service has been shown through the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention to have one of the best outcomes in terms of juvenile recidivism rates because it creates a connection to their community and helps them do something positive, and then also provide a psychoeducational piece of ways that they could respond differently. And it does so really quickly, and that's really important, particularly with an adolescent population, that it occurs within a brief period of time so that there isn't that disconnect. If I bring that juvenile into court a month later, they go to our court and it's over. Whatever happened is well beyond over. They're probably best friends with the person they got in a fight with again. Everything has moved on. But for other students, it hasn't moved on. And they do report being afraid, and they do report seeing things in their schools that concern them. And so our hope is that this has an effect of providing the appropriate services and intervention quickly to students, but also a deterrent effect of saying, listen, you're going to give up your Saturday. if you're going to come to school and you're going to fight somebody, your mom's going to have to get up. They're going to have to get you there, right? You're going to give up your Saturday. And that's a big deal if you're a teenager, right? And most parents are probably not going to be happy having to get up early and get their kid there. So I want to thank everybody at this table and to the superintendent for being willing to hear us out and to be willing to do this. I think it's something that is uniquely Carson City, that we can come together and say, we've got a problem, what can we do? And I know that everybody at this table would say, if this doesn't work, we're going to try something else, because we want what's best for our students, and we want our schools to be safe and for all of our students to feel safe.
So yeah, I would echo the thanks. The meeting was, just such a positive experience in terms of, here's a problem. Well, what if we did this? Well, I could do this, and you could do this, and we could do this. Just everyone was really positive, trying to look for solutions. And this is where it landed. So excited to get this off the ground and just bring this as information to you board members as we continue to try to improve what we are doing to support our kids to make better decisions in school. And take any questions.
I would just add one piece I forgot to mention. Any student who is detained for more than 2 weeks through this program or for other reasons, we do now, through our district intervention assistance team, our DIAT team, we staff those students before they return to school. So we ensure that they have that warm handoff from being possibly detained within law enforcement system back to the school, looking at who can check in with this student, do we need a schedule change, do we need a different drop-off time? And we are staffing those students as they come about, as long as they are detained for more than a few days. 2 weeks is our cutoff is now 10 days. So we're ensuring that they have a more successful start when they come back to their school, whether it's the high school or a different school site. We have seen great success with that. And this week, in fact, we had a student who said to an adult in the school who was meeting with family, "This is a new process. I really like this. I feel really supported. And I'm not worried going back to my class. My teachers know I'm coming. They know the plan. They know what I did while I was detained and how I can be successful here back at the school."
Thank you. Okay, I believe we have some comments. Trustee Walker, you said you had to comment?
Well, I was just going to say, one of the most important and hardest jobs we have is to maintain safe campuses, not just physical safety, but also social emotional safety, and fights and the such can really damage that for a lot of kids. And I think that another pressure schools face is that families want things turned around now. And there's only so much power a school has. And it truly takes the support of law enforcement and the community to really make change that lasts. And I think that number one, it's so important that everybody's coming together and working on this. But number two, I think that ultimately students are going to learn, instead of just punching somebody. I mean, in life, you can't just go around punching people. You can have a disagreement with somebody and use your words and solve it without resorting to physical violence. And just like as an elementary school principal, I don't know how many times a year I have that discussion with two little guys. When they get to high school age, they're adults, they're young adults, and it's harder to ignore those little things. And so I thank you for taking it serious and being a partner with us in this, because we truly do want safe and secure school campuses.
Richard?
Yeah, thank you. I like the idea. I think it's a great idea. And what I really like is that all these people at the table here are willing to come together to work as one to help address this problem. And I think that's what it takes, like Mike mentioned, a community, and working as a community to help solve the problem in the schools. And that's our biggest priority here, is to make sure that the schools are safe. And I think this will go a long ways. I like the part that it's immediate. You're not stretching out 2 or 3 months and everybody's forgot about it. So I think the immediacy is very, very good, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Matt.
So a couple questions. I really like the program. Sounds great. Just a couple questions. I'm wondering, is this strictly for fighting? Or can it be expanded into like threats at school or bullying resulting in like a criminal act of maybe like a battery or an assault, something like that? Can it be expanded into that? Because I know that's an issue that we're dealing with. And then I guess when, Linda, you had mentioned that it may take a couple times. So what happens with repeat offenders? Are they going to get the same class again, or is it going to be like a progressive, like 8 hours community service and then the next time 16? Or how does that work?
So I'm going to answer your second question first. So in my experience, what I've seen is a kid could go through a class the first time and maybe pick up one or two things or nothing. So they might need to go through the same class several times before things start to stick. So I think, this might evolve into something more where we are creative and we have different approaches depending on what the issue is. But I think starting off, because this is essentially a pilot program, we'll start with, it's going to be the same program. And, it'll be a case-by-case basis where we might have to review it on a Friday, with the DA's office to determine if it's appropriate for this kid, or maybe it happens and Taylor says that this is a repeat offender and we staff it together on that day to determine if it's appropriate or not. We're probably going to have some growing pains in that, but it'll work itself out. And as far as your first question, from my perspective, I think we'll start with the fights and then we'll see how it goes, and it could possibly grow into something more with the threats. But I think when we have a student that, and Kelly can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we have a student that has threats, that's making threats to the school, we're probably going to want a different approach than giving them the opportunity to come to this class on a Saturday. And I didn't mention this before, but we're going to have a probation officer facilitate the class. And even if it's two kids that fought each other that are attending, they'll be better equipped to handle that.
Thank you. And then I guess another question would be, is this considered, for Ms. Perkins, I guess, would be for the school, or Mr. Fueling, is this considered a diversion program so the kids are not being suspended from school, so instead they're doing this?
So the students still would be suspended, and we still would have to create that restorative plan, which is NRS, that if a student is suspended for more than 3 days consecutively, that is that time to create that plan of wraparound services for that student. We would likely still suspend the student in conjunction with the SRO. Some of our administrators mentioned that, if they see the student, first-time offender, fight, they attend the Saturday school, would they possibly consider reducing the suspension? And potentially, it might be case by case, depending on the severity of the fight and the student. But that is something that our administrators were on board with, the idea of that immediacy, and hopefully potentially reducing that suspension and putting them on in-school suspension if they were successful within the class. Possibly, but a fight at school generally would result in an out-of-school suspension.
Okay. And then lastly, I guess back to Linda, has the JPO office considered collecting info to make this evidence-based? Because I think a lot of the surrounding counties would probably benefit if you can. I think it would be very important if you guys did do that or consider doing that. I know there's a financial cost to it, but just making it an evidence-based program, I know it'd probably be pretty beneficial for schools in the area.
So we did not initially think about doing that, but we can definitely collect data, and the programming that we're going to use is evidence-based. So essentially, I think we could call it an evidence-based program, and I'll definitely collect data on it and share that, with our NAJA group.
I probably should have asked if it was already evidence-based, so. Thank you.
Molly? Thank you. I think this is, great if it, if we can make sure that they attend and, try to take that step for positive behavior. So walk me through, though, if there is a altercation at school, a fight, they are then immediately cited, and then they are immediately removed, correct?
Generally, the parents would be working with the administrative team if the student is suspended to come to the school. Your student's been in an altercation, they're interacting with the SRO, and they do have to provide some paperwork to the parent that your child is suspended, trespassed for the next 3 days, and they're attending this class on Saturday. Then the school district and the SRO will contact Linda's office as long as Friday by 5 p.m. They said they will host the Saturday class. So yes, if the student leaves with the SRO, that would potentially be a different situation that they are not attending that Saturday. But if they are just being suspended, a parent pickup, then they would return on Saturday to
No,
the class.
I guess my question is like, okay, so say that the fight happens at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, right? On Wednesday afternoon after lunch. They get a citation, they go to the office, they get their citation. Please tell me they're not going to go back into the classroom.
No, that would be
Okay.
the suspension and the administrators working with the family to,
Okay.
Pick up the student. Or they would remain in the office till the family could
Okay.
put the student to go.
When I had the opportunity to sit in SARB meeting this week, thank you for that, by the way, and your uniform speaks volumes, okay? Anybody that's in the room, your uniform speaks volumes, but it spoke volumes to the parents. And that's where I'm looking at saying, where are the parents in this? I know the student attends the Saturday class. Why can't the parent as well? Because there's got to be, there's got to be something there, whether it be a learned behavior or, something that is being done at home. But I know that both cases for that, those parents were definitely not speaking to us or to the school. When they spoke and promised that they would get their kid to school, they spoke to the deputy and said, please, we will get them to school. We will get them to school. And I think at some point then, I don't know how it looks. And like you said, this is a pilot program. But at some point, I don't know if we start turning to having the parents also participate in, the interventions that the schools are doing, for their child as well. Because they're doing it for a reason, and if we're now having to be that person. So I don't know what that might look like as well. And then, when it comes to community service, can you give me some examples of what kind of community service do they do?
So our community service would be, we work with Computer Corps, we work with other nonprofits where we go there on Saturday. I know in the past, we worked with, and if the program's not working, this is how long ago I've been familiar with the programs that we do. But at the high school, they had a, slips my mind, growing.
The greenhouse?
The greenhouse, yes. So, and our kids have helped with that in the past. So our community service person is in touch with a lot of the community. I'm not familiar with everything that they do, but our officer is going to have to work with them to come up with the projects. But for sure, I know we work with Computer Corps, and then they work with the city public works to go in areas where trash needs to be picked up, the hiking trails. If we know that there's an event that happened Friday evening, they'll go there to pick up trash. Those are some of the things that we've done in the past.
All right, thank you. And then for the Saturday class, I never did say that. On the Saturday class, is that then paid for by the city or the school?
We're offering it.
Awesome. I'm all for that. Thank you.
Rebecca?
Thank you. I think this sounds really great. I love your collaboration on this and everything. I love that there's an opportunity before an arrest to kind of say, hey, we care about you and you made a mistake, but let's, do what we can to kind of correct that before it's like this big negative connotation with, getting arrested and everything right off the bat. So just to go off of Matt's question with you're not looking at threats at this time. Does that include the bullying situations, or only if that's like a violent act that happens?
So at this point, we're looking really at two types of citations. We're looking at a phrase, which is when people agree to a fight, and we're looking at batteries. And those would generally be things that wouldn't have injuries. If there's significant injuries, that's going to change kind of what we're looking at. I think there is a point where we could be looking at some other types of charges. We don't generally arrest on what people think of as a bullying charge because of what that means. In statute, those are considered children in need of supervision, and they're not considered a delinquent act. So we don't generally arrest on those. If it rises to the level of a threats case, that changes the metric. Threats is a complicated issue because you have, I think, one-on-one person threats, right? But it changes when you're in a school environment, and it changes if it's as to a specific person and what that threat is. Usually on a juvenile that comes in at a threat at school, that's a gross misdemeanor, so it's a higher level charge. And then additionally, it could be threatening for acts of terrorism, which is a felony level charge. And those are things that we take very seriously if it's something that could impact the safety of all of the students. And we want to make sure that we're doing the appropriate assessments. And a lot of times that's asking a lot of questions of figuring out, because unfortunately, I think a lot of kids say things they don't mean in a moment when they're frustrated and upset. But it's more complicated because we need to figure out, does this youth mean that? Do they not mean that? And use really scientific measures of knowing whether or not we need to be concerned about the safety of everyone at our schools. And so those, I think, are more complicated for us to get into those areas.
Okay, that makes sense. And then this may be the same thing, but I know when I was in high school, there was a really bad year where they had to take some action of more than just, the typical suspension and whatnot, because it was getting so bad as far as like these organized fights and spectators and instigators and things like that. So my question is does this include sort of those groups with the spectators or those instigating, organizing the fights?
If you're instigating a fight, legally you can be charged as a principal to battery or a principal to the affray and to the actual offense. And so if they're in a position where they've reached that level, then yes, it would include them. If, unfortunately, just standing there and watching something while it encourages it isn't necessarily a criminal offense, right? It's not necessarily rises to the level of a delinquent offense and a charge being had. And that's something that our officers are going to review that are there. Our school resource officers know that area of the law very well, and they call me if there's any kind of specific concerns. But you're correct. Those incidents where they have a number of youth, I remember one of my first years on, we had a pretty large fight outside of the high school in the front yard. And that's a really dangerous situation for everybody because you have staff trying to keep themselves safe. You have students trying to keep themselves safe. And we only have so many officers on scene. And so it can get kind of frightening. And when students don't know what to do, right, people go into fight, flight, freeze. And so you have responses that you maybe wouldn't see otherwise.
Okay, great. And then you're starting at the high school, you said, and then kind of trickle that down to the middle schools. Do you see many altercations or things at the elementary level that you feel a need to, is there a need to have some sort of, catch them while they're really young and impressionable before they get to that point of?
So I know Juvenile Services has been doing some work in our schools, as well as I know a lot of our folks from MTSS have been doing work there. The difference with this program is it's driven by what the statute is regarding delinquent offending. Delinquent offending of this nature doesn't begin until the age of 10 by statute. So generally, we're not seeing, this wouldn't be something that would generally apply to most elementary school students. We could come up with maybe a couple, but generally that's not something that we would use this for. It's going to generally be middle school and high school.
That makes sense. So it's 10, age 10.
Correct. But I think there are significant efforts being put in place to try to get these educational pieces with our younger students so that we don't end up needing this. But obviously the fruits of those are well down the road.
Sure. And then just a question about the community service. So they come to the Saturday class, and is that community service then done after the instructional piece, or?
So right now we have them coming to our office from 8 to 4 p.m. They'll do a few hours of community service, come back to our office, and finish off with the programming.
Okay.
That's what the day looks like right now. Again, we haven't had our first Saturday class. When we start seeing it go, we might tweak it a little bit. Maybe it'll last 2 Saturdays. We don't know. But this is the starting point, and then we'll figure it out as we go.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you guys so much.
Michelle?
sorry if I missed it earlier when I was out, but is there a launch date, an anticipated go date?
Yes, this week. So, so we're going to see if we have to use this intervention this Saturday. I think so far it's not scheduled, but we're ready to roll if at the high school this week.
And then as far as you said, there may be an instance where they come once or they come multiple times, get certain more hours, or like, is there a set scale of like how bad your altercation was to determine like you get 2 Saturdays, or is it just a one and done and hope for the best before the next occurrence, or is there a scale of any sort?
So I think there's multiple levels to this. So this is really filling in a statutory provision in the juvenile justice field that allows for informal supervision to take place through juvenile services. And so this is kind of filling that hole. There are things that can be escalated from there, still handling it informally. And there are also things that you would say, well, even if you could handle that informally, that's a youth who would need to be brought into the court system based on the nature of what's going on. I think where we're at right now is there are going to have to be conversations between Sergeant Miras, Officer Lawler, and myself when those cases come up to kind of assess, is this a youth who's appropriate? And I think about this in the long term. If you have a youth who got in a fight in 6th grade and they come in and they're now 16, right? They're probably in a very different developmental place than they were when we gave them that programming. If it's 2 weeks later and it's the same person who they fought with, right? Did that intervention work? Is it meeting the needs of what's going on? And what's the risk that we have to that other child who was involved in that altercation? And so I think those are things that there's just a lot of moving parts where conversations are going to have to be had. Like we said, this is a pilot. The goal is to roll this out, see where the issues are. And I can tell you everyone at this team really wants to work to see what we can do to better support our students and also make sure that everyone's safe.
Okay, Richard and then Molly.
As far as having parents be part of this, is that problematic because they're not being charged with anything? Is that correct? So, I mean, it'd be hard to mandate them attend the meeting, although I think it would be important for them to do it. But just so everybody understands, if I'm not mistaken, they're not being mandated because they're not charged with anything. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But it is something on that sliding scale we talked about of things that can happen, right, beyond this. So that's something that we would think about if we have a parent who we really think needs to be engaged differently, right? That would be part of the conversation we would have to say, okay, well, then this case needs to come into court. Because if the case comes into court, we can mandate that parent to do things, right? So that's part of that conversation of saying, where are we at and do we think that this is going to be sufficient? But the vast majority of our fights, having pulled our data, and Superintendent Fueling and myself have had conversations about it, the vast majority of these kids come in, they have one offense, they don't come back. And so it's not necessarily, this is not necessarily, generally repeat behaviors. It's something's going on in that student's life and things are escalating to the point where they're engaging in a physical altercation.
Molly?
I just wanted to offer a place for community service if you need something. I'm available Saturday. I can meet you there. Superintendent Fueling knows where I'm talking. Yeah, but no, honestly, I do have a place where, community service, we could use some help on Saturday.
I will email you and get that information.
So I also want to say this is amazing. This program is amazing. I feel like this is what we needed for us to be able to enhance our safety in our schools, because as everyone already mentioned it, that's definitely on our, on our top priority is having our schools safe and having our children feel safe in school. And so I would echo what Trustee Walt mentioned about the parent involvement, and also Richard Varner, you said the same thing. I am a strong believer that parents need to be part of this conversation, and I feel that they will benefit so much from a similar program of what you just developed for the children. And I can assure you that those parents are so grateful. I feel like I can speak on behalf of the parents that they're so grateful that the team that we have here presenting this program came with this amazing idea. So I think it's going to be fabulous. one thing that comes to mind, Partnership Carson City offers parenting workshops, so I'm wondering if you would consider reaching out to them so that they could be, that they could partner with this project, so that we can provide that parent component. That's just an idea that comes to mind. And another idea is, I see that it is, that the handouts that you provided are in English and Spanish, and thank you, I appreciate that. I also would recommend that the work program rules handout is also provided in Spanish, because I see that the parents are asked to sign, and so it would be good for those Spanish-speaking parents to be aware of what they are signing, and also be informed of what is expected of their children. So that's just a suggestion. And I also love how you emphasize accountability. It is your responsibility, and you put that in capital letters. And if I may make a recommendation just for consistency on under behavior and rules on number 5, if you would consider putting that word "your" also in capital letters just for consistency. But I think this is fabulous. So thank you so much for all this work. And thank you to the district attorney for being here and supporting this. And thank you, thank you to everyone, yes. All right, so if we don't have any other questions, thank you so much for this presentation. We appreciate it. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 10, annual report from Carson Middle School and Eagle Valley Middle School on programs, supports for students, and celebrations. And this is for discussion only. Welcome, Ms. Amy Robinson and Dr. Lee Conley.
Good evening, President Ramirez, Mr. Fueling, board members, some new faces, but familiar faces. Good to see you. Hi, Renee and Ryan. Don't want to leave you out. Dr. Lee Conley, principal at Eagle Valley Middle School. This is my 15th year there, along with
Amy Robinson, the principal at Carson Middle School.
All right. Renee, do we have? Oh, you're telling me to do the clicker. Oh my God, I can't do it without a mouse. Okay, hold on. Right there, state of the school. All right, hold on, where's slideshow?
Top.
There it is,
We're
from
above.
the beginning. All right, I think we're set. So this is a great opportunity for us to share some of the things that are going on with our schools over this past year. We tried to align, and I'm not sure if all of you got a chance to look at this, to preview it a little bit beforehand. Hopefully you did. There's a lot of information in there. We probably could have put more, but at the same time, our font was getting small and the night was getting long. So if you have any further questions, by all means, don't hesitate to ask. And, follow up with Amy and I, where we work. We tried to frame it around our school performance plan, which has 3 components that you see there. And so as we're going through this, we'll try to frame everything under those 3 topics. Those 3 topics are absolutely not separate. They all bleed in with each other. They're all connected. You're probably going to see some repeats, or if you have any, some repetition. But if you have, any questions about how things are related, by all means, again, just interrupt anytime you want, okay? All right. I'm going to do it this way. You can take this.
So our student success goals have to do with academic achievement, and we pretty much have the same, and that's just to increase students demonstrating proficiency in both math and reading. That's always our goal, and we use our SBAC and MAP data to measure that, so it's a very specific goal, yet it has many, many aspects to it.
The good news is I know that we finished MAP testing. Are you done?
We are finishing up makeups this week.
And we are too. We're doing a few makeups. So we're going to have MAP data immediately, which is great. SBAC, that's a different story. You all know that. That'll come hopefully within a few months. And that'll just kind of back us up too on what our goals are and if we are successful or not. So we'll be able to give you, definitive answers as to whether we met those goals or not, and some growth based on SBAC. But the good news is we will be able to provide information in short order in the near future based on just our MAP scores. So I'm assuming you're all pretty familiar with MTSS at this point, what it is. And so looking at the different tiers of through MTSS, with tier 1 being for the general public, the whole group of kids. These are some of the things that we are trying to do with our staff and within our schools. We're really trying to focus. There are so many good teaching strategies, but if you try to do them all, you're going to go insane. So we're trying to focus more on some specific high yield teaching strategies with our staff. And we'll get into, I think, some more of those are as we go through the presentation. We are looking at, we are focusing a lot on our ELL kids because the data does show that their scores have been a little bit lower overall compared to the general population. So we are focusing on them. And we have proficiency scales that are pretty much done for almost everybody. And we are now implementing those and expect to see all the instruction based around those proficiency scales. I think those have been a good thing. I think they've been a tool that is helping us get away maybe from some of the fluff and getting back to those real essential questions and the real essential curriculum that we need to cover, and some of those areas in which our kids are kind of lacking. We're both implementing AVID instructional strategies as well. And again, you're going to see some of this bleed in. This is part of our professional development, which we'll talk about later. And we've also started including the use of a program called Exact Path. And that is to help remediate kids. For example, if you have 8th graders that miss some 4th grade math standards, they are getting a specific pathway, learning pathway in Exact Path that will help fill in some of those 4th grade standards that maybe they missed and some of the skills. It has been very helpful at Eagle Valley. Amy can talk about it with the way they're using it at Carson Middle. But Exact Path has been a good supplemental program that we're using as well.
Quick. So then are they taken out of a classroom to do that, or is it within?
We're actually using it differently. So he's using
Okay.
it more as a tier 1, so you can.
Yeah, I'm using a tier 1, and our entire school gets it. We do it during advisory, and we focus on the research from Exact Path says that if you can get on 40 minutes a week for this, you're going to see success and up to 16 percentile growth points is what the research shows. So we have it every Monday and Thursday in advisory. And so they're getting it 40 minutes twice a week, and it's school-wide that we do during advisory, which is the way we start every day in our advisory class.
So a student who doesn't need it, what do they do?
They still, I'll tell you, kids that are even junior, senior, they still have gaps. They still have things that they can focus on. And honestly, some of these kids, they're working on 10th, 11th, 12th grade material. Yeah, they are. And they're like, they get trophies, little trophies when they master a skill. And some of the higher level kids have been like, I can't get these skills, Dr. Conley, because I'm already up here. I'm like, yeah, but you're already at such a level that you going through these is going to help you anyway. And the kids have said, even though I'm not maybe passing or gaining as many trophies as some of the kids that have more gaps, it's understandable, right? They're like, the kids are still learning something from it. And if you ask them, they'll be like, yeah, I guess I'm learning something. So, even though they don't want to admit it, yes, you're very smart. You're smarter than I'll ever be, but you're still learning things. So good job. Yeah. Too many years of middle school. Yeah.
We use it more as a tier 2. So with our smaller group, like intervention classes and our special education, like kids with on IEPs who have gaps. So that's how we're using it at our school. So not school-wide. It's
And
a tier 1.
we parallel that. We have it during intervention classes as well. We have 6th, 7th grade. This year, we're expanding it to 8th grade next year. Now, that is a period that at our school that they give up an elective for that. So usually they have 2 electives during the day. This becomes one of their elective, but we also look at it from a quarter basis. And if the kids are mastering enough skills and filling in enough gaps with the exact path, we pull them back out and put them back into an intervention. So it's kind of a goal that they can get out of there. They're not stuck in there forever. Yeah.
And do you have data to show the growth?
Yeah, I mean, we will, especially with MAP. Once it comes, it's all MAP based also, the exact pathways that are created for each kid, and it's individualized for each kid. It will show you like how many skills and trophies that they have mastered. Yeah.
That's why I was wondering, because you said you give them trophies, so obviously they're learning something that they're
Yeah.
getting these trophies.
And like our goal this year is for the kids to earn 16 trophies, because again, that's what research shows. If you can get 16 trophies, it really drives up your student success rate and the way they perform on the high performance tests, like SBAC and the MAP and all that. And so we're using it as motivation. We're tying it to rewards, like kids with at least 16 trophies and that they have grown on their MAP scores. We're going to take them to an ACES game. We're taking them, they've earned movie field trips already, where they get popcorn and soda and candy when they go to the movie theater, get to miss a little school, have a little fun. Right. And so, and then just weekly rewards where if they have met their goals or spent enough time trying to get to those goals, because some goals, like again, the higher kids, it takes them longer to master a skill. So we don't want to say you have to master 3 skills this week in order for Friday during advisory to go down and have like a group activity. And then we have team competitions on Friday mornings and things like that for the kids that have done enough. I mean, that's getting deep into what we're doing into advisory, which I'm more than happy to talk to you about if you or come by and see how it works also. But yeah, it's tied to a lot of things, and we're trying to really focus on that with the kids. Amy did talk about
My turn.
like the exact path interventions. So keep going.
Okay, our tier 2 interventions, we have intervention classes at every grade level for ELA and math. We base those on MAP scores, teacher recommendation, grades, and the kids and that is an actual class that they take with it. They're pulled out of an elective to do it. Credit recovery classes are part of those. We also, at Carson Middle School, have an interventionist who's working with kids, and so she's pulling kids all the time, looking at just based on their grades, their work habits. She does a variety of different interventions with the kids. We use the exact path during those intervention times. We have our after-school program, so we do an extended day with the kids, and our interventionist is doing that, and we have ESL support during that as well. We have our DEEP program after school for kids who struggle with the regular day, and so oftentimes they come for the afternoon classes and then go into an after-school program and that it was using our Apex tutorials. And then we will have our summer school credit recovery. And our tier 3, we actually have some really intense intervention classes that are run by our interventionist. We've got some kiddos who are reading at like a kindergarten level and a 2nd and 3rd grade level. And so our student support services trained staff on Orton-Gillingham, the Orton-Gillingham literacy approach. And so our interventionist is actually doing that with a bunch of kids, and it's making a huge difference for those kiddos who are really struggling accessing our curriculum at grade level when they can't read. So, and really working on like blends and digraphs and real phonemic awareness. So, and then doing some intense math interventions as well. So yeah, go ahead. You can talk.
You're going to see a lot of probably similar things between what we're doing. Again, we talked a little bit about the exact path when we're using it. We're also, using it during our special ed directed studies classes as well. The kids are getting pretty good at setting SMART goals with the map, so they know exactly what they need to get on a map and what reward they're looking for, and also how that's going to help fill in the gaps for them. Again, we're really focusing on AVID and ELAD strategies. We've had trainings during our PD days, a lot on the AVID and during PLCs as well for both AVID and ELAD. Again, we're using those intervention classes to help fill the learning gaps. And then both Amy and I are also, when we schedule, we don't just willy-nilly, put the kids up on a dartboard and see which class they're going to be in. It is based on what level they're at. We do all of our master scheduling based on the levels of our kids. It's always nice to try to consider that, hey, maybe we have enough kids that are making progress where we can have another higher level, another section of a higher level math class, for example. So that changes every year, just depends on where the kids are at. And again, that's all looking at their numbers and the data of where kids are at.
And our strategies are to continue to focus on just that high engagement instruction in the classroom from bell to bell, keep them engaged, which also ends up helping with student behavior and helps all around. Increase our focus on reading and reading strategies, and then that strategic scheduling. We could take behavior into consideration as well to kind of spread out, so that we don't have a class full of, students who are a little more difficult, but to also give more opportunity for kids who need extra help or kids who are in those more advanced classes that way they can take all of the classes that they tend to, kids in GATE classes tend to take band, and so you have to consider all of those things when you're scheduling so that there's the most opportunity.
What's interesting too, especially in math, our schools and through working with the high school, our kids from 6th to 7th grade are already planning kind of their pathway to be on a more advanced math pathway. And so, I mean, they really are starting in 6th and 7th grade looking at what math am I going to be in, which is going to lead them to what classes they're going to be enrolled in all the way through high school. So, I mean, it's starting earlier and earlier, especially in math.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah. Okay, this is really small, so I summarized it for you. This is my the map growth. You guys were asking for a little bit of data and kind of what it's showing. The map growth so far from last fall to we just are getting done now. And again, we've got a few kids that still need to do some makeups. But so far from for our reading, we've, and this is school-wide, and it differs a little bit between the grade levels as well. But I wasn't going to get into specific grade levels because then you get really, really small. But our reading is growing from overall 45th to 47th percentile. Math went from 40th to 44th. And then language is going, which we just started doing the language test on MAP, but it went from the 47th to the 50th so far. I think the great thing, the best thing about what we see going on is you want the red sections on the left to get smaller. And if you look at those graphs, you can see that between the two bottom graphs, take that top little drawing there, the two smaller graphs on the bottom, you can see where the red is getting smaller, which means ultimately what you want is you want the green and the blue to get bigger. And they are, but a kid's not going to go from a red to a blue, obviously, all at once, but they're going to make this incremental growth. But that's what we're seeing is those little red sections are getting smaller, which means fewer kids that are down low like that. And they're actually starting to creep up into the middle and the higher levels, which is what you want to see over time. And you just want more and more blue as that data, as you continue testing through the year. I think Amy's got something similar here.
Yeah, I pulled up ours. So our achievement level for reading has from fall to spring remained the same. Our growth is in the 53rd percentile. For math, achievement went up a percentile and our growth was 48th percentile. It was interesting on our reading, our growth from winter to spring, which is a fairly short December to the test we just took, was 53rd percentile. So we increased our growth overall. So that was positive. And then achievement and the language, our growth percentile was 51% as well. So there's growth happening. We want to see that achievement increase, though. That's our goal, right, overall.
Mm-hmm. And again, that's, I think it was Mike was saying earlier, you can't base everything just on one test, but the MAP is a pretty prescriptive tool that we use, and we get the results right away. And then we can use the MAP to actually look at the map really can get detailed into reading. It breaks reading down to its components, and then you can tell, is it informational text the kids are struggling on? Is it comprehension? And then you can tailor your instruction and your needs to your kids to that as well. So that's why we like the map, honestly, quite a bit.
So the adult learning culture is another part of our school performance plan, and just overall our goal with our staff. We've prioritized our department-based communities of practice, so they have a common prep time that they can plan and work on proficiency scales and do the work that they need to do. They can meet as often as they want, but they meet at least once a week to do that. And we work really hard to provide time for teachers to implement and practice and reflect on their practice. And one thing we've implemented this year is time for teachers to go observe one another and then to come back and be able to reflect on that. And it's been a really positive, it's been really neat to see the staff kind of take that and run with it. So they end up sending out an email, hey, I'm using this strategy today or tomorrow, come on in and watch me do it. And that's kind of been spreading, which is really cool. And the other neat thing about it is it really focuses on strategies and not so much on content. So it's because teaching strategies are good teaching strategies no matter what your content is. And that's our goal, is to get people to use those real high engagement strategies that keep kids wanting more. So that has been a big focus for us this year, and we're just kind of getting that rolling, and we will continue that next year. And then just supporting our teachers with implementation of their proficiency scales and common assessments. So that's our kind of the basis of our adult learning, our professional learning.
Ours is essentially the same. It might be written a little bit differently, but ours is essentially the same. I know that both schools are also using, weekly PLCs, common prep times, but then those PL Wednesdays as well. Been using a lot of that PL Wednesday time for the same purposes. And then to talk about individual kids, little Matt's kind of problem maker in my math class. I can't get him to engage, but Ms. Robinson, what are you doing with him? And so they share ideas about how to deal with kids too, and just common things that will work, which I think goes into the MTSS structure. We're trying to support, again, the academics, the social part, the emotional part. What's making this kid click, or what's making this kid wanting to explode? And then as a team, figuring out how they can have the same common expectations, same routines, same procedures with this kid. Once they find something that works, why reinvent the wheel? If it's working for Amy in her class, I'm going to use it in my class as a teacher. So they have time to plan that sort of thing too.
And the next part is connectedness, which is really bringing it all together. It's how, it's kind of a funny word, connectedness,
It is.
but that's from the state. So at Carson Middle, our biggest goal is to decrease our chronic absenteeism rate, and we're using a variety of ways to do that, but that's kind of the basis of our goal.
We're trying to refine what we're doing with MTSS. It's been a learning process. We've fudged some things, but we're learning from our mistakes as well, and then trying to implement more of the tier 2 systems. And then a big thing for us is getting our parents in more and trying to find ways to get them in. It's been frustrating at times. We gave a state of the school, something very similar to this, but for our parents. And we had an RSVP because we thought we're going to feed them, right? We're going to get them in here. And we had like 144 people RSVP. And then 30 showed up. So I had a lot of leftover food, which is great. Put it in the freezer. But, we worked with Chartwells. They made the food for us and all that. So it was a little bit frustrating, but at the same time, we're like, well, 30 is better than the usual 2 that we get. So, small steps.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And at least we did share it also through Parent Square. At least we had some people that were able to see our presentation through Parent Square, hopefully, as well. So we're trying. Again, we're just trying to increase the consistency with the MTSS, and then again to try to get those parent outreach opportunities. We're trying to really get the parents also involved. When we've been having a lot of awards assemblies, recognition rallies, different reward things like the kids. And I got to say, I do have to give a lot of this up to my vice principal, Greg Thetford. He's been very good about. He's creative. He's a creative guy. And just ways of getting parents involved, from getting them to go up to the Tahoe Night Monsters, for example, and he's got a connection up there. I don't know what he did or who he paid. But those people have been very good with working with Mr. Thetford and giving us tickets, and rebates and things for trying to get families up there. Our counselors are still trying to get parents in with different, parent types of informational nights. We try to get them in. We always invite them in for our recognition rallies and our awards assemblies and things like that as well. Another really fun thing has been each team, we have academic teams, which is your 4 core teachers and then an elective teacher or 2 that are on an academic team. Each quarter, they are picking 1 kid. So each team has about 140 kids. They're picking 1 kid that they think just is outstanding. It's not necessarily the straight A kid, not the one who, is the perfect kid, but the one who tries, the one who's trying to show up for school, the one who just has a great attitude. And we're having a breakfast, the quarter breakfast. And these kids, it's the funniest thing. The best thing about it, they like the donuts, they like the coffee, but they love the yard signs. We got little yard signs that say, your kid was student of the quarter. And we actually had a kid who's on a variance from Dayton. It's out in their yard in Dayton. So kind of cool. I saw it out there. My parent-in-laws live out there, and I was driving by. I'm like, hey, that's our sign. So I thought that was cool. So we're actually trying to get, some different recognition and get the parents more involved as well.
So our whole theory is that if we make school more fun and engaging in the classroom, bring parents on board, then we'll have better attendance, which is our whole goal. So just utilizing our PBIS, our reward system, doing a lot of rewards for grades, and just being at school is just, that's our whole goal. So connecting with families in a variety of ways in their home language, trying to reach out in different ways, and then increasing student engagement in the classroom with activities that are highly engaging. So that's our approach.
I totally agree with Amy. I think, the academics is important, but the kids aren't going to get the academics if they don't want to be there. So trying to just get the kids there and give them a sense of belonging and importance and respect, I think, has been huge. And you can increase the rigor, you can increase the instructional strategies, but if the kids don't want to come and they're not there to get it, they're not going to get it. So you got to get them there.
So our tier 1 interventions or processes for connectedness, we have our tier 1 MTSS team that meets monthly, and we have parents on that team, and we look at school-wide data and just things that are happening school-wide that may affect everybody and get feedback, and that team comes up with ideas maybe for our social emotional learning, those kind of things. We do recognition for grade attendance. We have our SEL curriculum is for everybody in advisory. We do it in advisory class. We have a program called Second Step. We do quarter and semester awards assemblies to recognize grades, attendance. It's fun. Mr. Lewis he takes every student's name in each grade level who's not chronically absent on a big wheel, and we do a raffle, and he spins it, and then the kid's name pops up, and they win a prize, and the kids love it. It's really fun. It's a little rally. We have our CMS Golds Awards quarterly. We use our PBIS points, parent-teacher conferences, our sneak peek. They do a boot camp. We do sneak peek. It's the same thing. It's inviting all the families in before school starts to come check out the school, get their schedules. 5th grade scavenger hunts. We invite all the 5th grade feeder schools to come in and find out about the school. We'll do that this spring. We have our school resource officers who work with our kids, some fun field trips, going to UNR, WNC, really trying to bring in the career type stuff so that kids start to see the relevance of school. Family nights, JPO, we have juvenile probation will do information nights, and we work with them. And we had La Ofrenda this year. That was really fun. Lupe joined us, and that was really neat. We do a hero lunch. It's a huge success. We do that a couple times a year where we bring families in to eat lunch. They love that. And that's always fun because the families bring their own food to share, and that's a fun. And then bingo night, it's always very successful as well. Bingo night's a fun PTO night that a lot of people, even people who don't have kids there, come and join our bingo
They're fun.
night. They come play bingo.
The neighborhood people.
Yeah, it's really fun. And then Lee, you do administrators council.
Yeah, we actually just started this. We have, from every one of our advisory classes, so every teacher teaches an advisory class, so there's about 40, 44-ish advisory classes, and we split them into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and Mrs. Linehan, my dean of students, does 6th grade, Mr. Thetford has 7th grade, I do 8th grade, and we get together once a month with one representative from each advisory group, and it's really just kind of a round table with kids, and we ask them, and they're supposed to discuss this prior to our meeting with them. We bring them in for lunch. or during advisory and give them donuts and stuff. But their role is to basically have the conversation. The teacher, runs a conversation with the kids to say, how are things? What's good in the school? What's not so good in the school? What do you think we can do better? What are some ideas? And then they bring that to us. And then we discuss, us 3 admin then get together and say, this is what my group brought in. Are we hearing any common themes? Is there anything we need to be aware of? Our best sources of information are our kids. It helps prevent some issues as well. But it's really kind of giving the kids a little bit more voice. For a long time, it's the adults that are making all the decisions. And I think we were missing a very valuable piece of information and viewpoint and perspective from the kids. And I got to admit, the funnest part of this job is the kids. So when you can work with them and hear some of the weird things they say, but it's fun. You're like, yeah, we're not doing that, but I like that idea. Good job. Should have written a book.
Some of our tier 2 and tier 3, right, you should have. Tier 3 interventions, we have a tier 2 team, the intervention assistance team that we look at, so staff can refer students who maybe need a little extra support, either academic behavior or attendance-wise, and they get assigned a caseworker, and we kind of dig deep into what might help support them. And that team meets every other week, I believe. And then we can also utilize our district intervention and assistance team, the DIAT team. We often take kids to that group and say, hey, we're stuck and we need help. And that's a really good service because everybody's there at the table and they can really help, problem solve. Small focus groups that our tier 2 team does, like right now we have an emotional regulation group going that are research-based, and they, like our social worker and our interventionist, work with those kids. Our school resource officers and JPO, those partnerships. Juvenile probation is doing vaping classes and other types of classes with our frequent flyers. Kids who've been suspended more than once or have in-school suspension more than once, they can do specific classes with them. And then at a tier 3 level, we even have therapy on site if we need through our MTSS.
A few challenges that we thought we'd kind of highlight are things that we both kind of see. We still have kind of a lack of motivation, a little apathy sometimes with our kids. They want kind of the easy answer, or they don't want to try. It's just like, we try to really talk to them about becoming part of their own education. And it's a battle with middle schoolers. We do have a challenge, I think, is because, and they talked about it before, when the district attorney and them were up here, about kids' behavior now is different than it used to be. Let's face it, it's tougher now. And unfortunately, I think we're both seeing it at our schools where the dean and the VP, in our minds, spend too much time dealing with behavior. Even though all these things we're trying to do to make it a positive thing, you're going to still have those kids. And they're not able to be out in the classrooms maybe as much as we'd like them to be. I think Amy and I probably have the benefit of being out in the classrooms a little bit more often because we make our poor VPs and deans do the hard work with the behavior for the most part. So we'd like to get them out and trying to look at ways to try and get them out more in the classrooms. We're pretty good with transportation. Amy says she's got still a little bit of a challenge with some transportation. We're pretty good with it. Boy, if you want to teach science, please. I'm going to need 1 or 2. She's going to need 2 or 3. Science, for some reason, is really tough right now. We're doing pretty well on the others.
Yep.
We're finding people. Sub teachers, what Mr. Sadler has done with substitute teachers has helped immensely. We haven't had really a shortage this year. We've also had our staff fill in for each other on their preps, but we haven't had to utilize that as much, I would say.
Yeah, it's much better.
Yeah.
It's better.
And then again, just trying to find ways to involve families and actually get them to show up.
So I'm going to jump back to transportation because that is an issue for us. There's a group of kids who live across Main Street that when we talk about attendance, and I mean, I think if I was a mom on the other side of Main Street, I wouldn't want my kid walking, it's a huge amount of kids. And so I don't know, it'd be nice to maybe look at, I know we've got some buses going up the west side that maybe are not so full, you know, and maybe there's some ways to think about solving that. That it just, like going down Hot Springs Road, there's that's a very dense area, and those kids are within the walk zone. So, and those are people who work 2 jobs, and, you know, those parents are really struggle.
Amy, I
with-
remember at Carson Middle School and Fritch worrying about that
Yes.
because there's certain
Same.
times a year that it's so dark to
Yeah.
cross that street.
Yes.
Like cars can't even see those
Yes.
kids, and the kids
Yeah.
don't always pay attention. So
Right. Yeah.
I
It's-
remember that concern.
It's a big concern. So I don't know if that, you know, that's something.
Can I just, I'm wondering if there's, if they're across that main street, and I know the transportation is hard and everything with, but maybe if there was like 1 or 2 stops that were localized on that side, because then they're not, having this huge route, but I mean, they're already having to walk that far to school. Could they walk just to a stop they're not crossing that main road?
Something I think.
We
would
do
like
have
to
some
look-
buses that run on Hot Springs Road though and drop kids off.
Well, but I think, yeah. And then middle school, the drop or the pickup zone is way down, almost to East College Parkway. I think that's where it starts. And even down Main Street South, we've got kids who live in apartment complexes that are on the south or on the east side of the highway. And I had a kiddo the other day, and it was a long way. And I thought, I just worry about that.
And maybe that's just something as we're looking at budgeting and planning for next year that we could work with the superintendent on and not necessarily take away from your presentation, but I think it's
No, it's
good
just a
food for
concern.
thought.
It's a concern that we worry about and we think about.
Okay.
Behavior data.
We tried to run just some overall data for you. And we tried to compare it between 2 years, last year and this year. And I think there's some good stuff here. Amy, you want to start? I mean, and we can just
Sure.
kind of summarize. It's not like we have to read all these numbers to you.
So Carson Middle, total incidents so far this year that have come through our office. This is what our office has seen, right? And so those are 4 people. That's our TOSA dean, vice principal, and myself. 965 incidents have come through the office. And so 421 kids involved in those. So we've got some repeat offenders, or oftentimes you have like an incident and then they've got a number of kids just below it. So staff making referrals. So this is kind of a win, I feel, at our school, because it used to be, our history has been that the classroom disruption has been huge, right? And that's been the most of what we deal with. And to see the number of staff making referrals go down, that's a positive to me. Like that means the misbehavior is moving into the hallways maybe, but at least it's not happening as much in the classroom. We have quite a few things happening though in the hallways and at lunch and in the bathrooms. And then it breaks down that the TOSA dean so of the 660 incidents that have with the administrators, 223 were handled by the TOSA dean, 286 by the dean, 87 by the vice principal, and 64 by me. Now, next year we lose our TOSA dean, so that's going to spread that out. It'll mean less, more for principal and VP. Those numbers will definitely change. So it'll be less time in the classroom for me and the vice principal, and more time dealing with discipline.
I have a question on when you mentioned the restrooms. So Eagle Valley has restrooms like the high school, correct?
A few, right?
The high school has restrooms like Eagle Valley.
Okay. So does
Correction.
what about Carson Middle?
We're getting them.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, so we still have the old school bathrooms, and those are definitely a hot spot for behavior. That's a place where you'll see when you see our
We broke
hall
that down a
pass
little
data.
for you. We did.
Yeah.
We broke that down a little bit for you.
But yes, so that's the plan this summer. They are revamping our bathrooms to be like Eagle Valley's. which we're really excited for because I think it will cut down. I mean, just today we had ink was the new one today. Ink was in the bathrooms all over. And the poor custodian, his hand was green. Anyway, yeah, that he was cleaning the ink because it's Easter egg time. So we have Easter egg, confetti Easter eggs. I don't know if you have those right now, but everywhere, and ink. So
Will tomorrow.
Yep. So that's the new, anyway. So yes, it'll be nice when we have the restrooms. I think it'll eliminate a lot.
Remember when they were really controversial when they came out? It's funny how things have changed. They work. Our numbers have gone down, which I think, that's obviously a good thing. One thing that we've really tried to implement this year, it used to be where if a kid was goofing off, boy, we're going to write you a referral, right? And then boom, you're getting sent to the office. We've really, and this is through MTSS, we've really tried to incorporate our minor versus major type of behaviors. So if a kid is just kind of goofing in class, right, it's not going to be an automatic referral. But it can't just be, at some point the kids have to be accountable for their behavior or they're not going to learn. So it can't just keep being a warning. Pretty soon you have 28 warnings and the kid's still doing it. So we've been trying to implement more minor, which basically means 3 minor instances lead up to a referral. And I think that's been part of our success on the lower numbers, is the teachers have been able to circumvent these behaviors from growing into more major issues by working with the kids in class. I have to give it to my staff. They do a good job with that. And they know that if they are sending a kid to the office, we're going to question them about it and we're going to look into it. So they've been accountable. My staff has been accountable. And I think that's been a big part of maybe why our numbers are down. It's funny, and Amy, I don't know if this is true for you. Most of my referrals that I've done this year, because I've gone up a little bit, they've been Go Guardian alerts from 1 a.m. in the morning, a lot of times, 1:08, 1:15, 1:30. Kids are up on their computers looking at inappropriate sites. So I pull them in and I say, yeah, you know what? Not supposed to be on that site, especially on a district computer. That's what most of mine have been. Kind of funny, at least half of them. I don't know with you. Do you get those alerts?
Oh, I get them.
Yeah. They're fun.
We were just talking about
They're
them
interesting.
Today.
This is where we tried to break it down a little bit by type. You're going to see a little asterisk there for both of us on the top. Now, I will tell you also, I think there's some interpretation on what these are.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's not going to be perfect. What disregard for school rules might be. They kind of bleed into each other. So it just kind of depends on how the administrator codes these or what they kind of think it should be. So, I mean, don't say that, Eagle Valley has this many more of disregard than Carson Middle, or Carson Middle has this many more than, Eagle Valley, because it's just not that simple. But the bottom line is, like, you'll see the asterisk. They actually kind of redefined some of these incidences. And so now disregard for school rules actually includes like being in an unauthorized area and those technology violations. There's subcategories underneath it. So again, just look more at the numbers, I guess, for the most part. You're going to see that most of it, and I think I can probably speak for both of us, is just kind of goofy middle school behavior. I think we're really trying to push the respect from kids. And I have a lot of conversations about your reaction is going to dictate maybe what kind of consequences you're going to get. Every kid's going to make mistakes, but the way you react to that is going to be what probably gets you in trouble. And I give the analogy a lot. If I go through Washoe Valley on the way home every day, if I'm doing 80 miles an hour, I'm breaking the law. But I got people going past me 90. But if I get pulled over, I'm still breaking the law. I still broke a rule. That is not the time to argue with the police officer. And maybe it's because my dad was a cop too. I've learned that. So our kids, we're trying to get them to kind of take that deep breath and not argue at that point, but for them and the adult to remain calm. And so I think that's part of it as well, is that we're trying to train the kids a little bit on, how to react if they are in trouble or if they do make a bad choice. We both have vape sensors.
Yeah, in the bathrooms, that helps.
They piloted those and they had great success, so we latched onto that, and that has helped also. It's vape sensing, but it's also just like, God, they detect like possible fights A bright note, I'm going to tell you. Now, I don't know what Amy's numbers are. I put this in late. But we had last year a lot of instigated fights where, it was like planned to like, hey, we're going to fight this. If you look down the bottom, they filmed fights 15 times last year because they had their phones. I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, those yonder pouches are worth their weight in gold. They have been worth every penny. The kids are talking more. They're not on their phones. We've had to take very few from kids when they are out. And it's simple. If a kid has a phone out, you broke the rule. It's supposed to be in the yonder pouch. You do that every day in advisory at the beginning of the day. And the last 5 minutes of the day, we unlock them. You get your phone back. Haven't had parent complaints. It's been a successful campaign, I think.
Yeah, and we're the same. We've had two filmed fights, and both of them happened before school hours.
Yes.
Before they started.
They
So
plan it before they're at
that's a
school.
huge difference because that was.
Well, it would, and that's going to go along with something we're going to go over about our securely about the e-haul pass too. Just having the kids, knowing where the kids are at, and really knowing that they're not just going to be wandering. The kids can't plan. We're going to meet down in the bathroom during third period at 9:30 in order to fight. That just isn't happening anymore.
And then they're not able to post it and get a bunch of likes
Yep.
and feel really good about their it's a big rush to get all those likes.
Yep.
When you look at like our fight, physical aggression too, that looks, I know we've
Both
been
good.
talking a lot about those tonight with the previous presentation, but when we have 39 and 44, not all of those are fights. That physical aggression piece of that, sometimes that's just kids playing rough in the hall and it ends up being logged as a physical. So it doesn't necessarily mean we have fights. I'm not going to deny that, but not every single one of those is a fight.
Yeah. And I think another challenge probably based on both of our data is still vaping. Kids love the vape and it's easy to get. So that's still a problem.
And
is the
marijuana
vaping.
is much easier to get now,
Yep.
sadly.
Yeah, I was
Unfortunately.
going to ask that about the controlled substance. You had 13, you had 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Is it mainly marijuana? I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We haven't, last year I did have a pill on campus that was really worrisome, and we got to the bottom of it and we figured out what it was. It was a kid that took his parents' stuff, but that's the only like other kind of thing we've ever had. It's marijuana. It's the THC vape pen, and they're just very available now to kid. It's just since they legalized it,
Yep.
it's so much more common and harder to find because it's those pens and they don't necessarily smell. The old kind of marijuana, you could smell it. This you don't smell, so it's hard to detect and hard to find.
So do we do a saliva
We
swab?
don't test, no.
No.
Our deputies can kind of do an assessment, but that's really hard. If a student is possibly high, it's very hard to determine and to prove unless they just
I
tell
know
you.
other districts are doing a saliva swab.
Mm.
If it's possible for us to maybe implement, I'd be interested in that.
Well, it'd be nice because, we do have, there are kids sometimes you think, and you worry about them, but there's no real way to prove.
Right.
And then
You
they'll
can
argue.
encourage parents
and-
to get them tested, but
But
they don't
even
always do that.
I've even had parents say, well, they're going to test positive because they did it, over the weekend. And you're like, okay, I don't know how to help. But so anyway, that would be nice.
The vaping that because obviously it is a growing concern, I think, with everybody as well. But what approaches are you using to address it? And are you finding how are the students responding?
It's really hard. The kid who just tries it with their friends like that's not so horrible. And JPO helps us with that. We have kids addicted. And it's a problem because they can't go the day without vaping. And so they get caught. And then what do? You just keep suspending. You can't just keep suspending the kid. But I can't have nicotine patches to give them. I've recommended go see I tell the parents, I believe your child is addicted and I think you need to see your medical doctor and get this get them some help because it's really hard. It's a sad story, but we really do. And I've had kids say, I'm addicted to this.
And I mean,
so it's a sad story.
Well, I think it's just because, when we were growing up, there was cigarettes.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine anybody being addicted to a cigarette in middle school.
Yeah, no, we've got
Oh, yeah.
kids
To
who are
know that
addicted.
this is like, holy.
And it's sad because you want to, we don't have a ton of tools.
And JPO comes in
Yeah,
with
they
our
help.
kids and they have decision-making classes and stuff to try to get at them that way. So,
That's a hard one. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes.
oh yeah, I mean, it's stemming from them, from home more than likely.
I think that's where, I made the mention about having these parents involved in the
Yeah.
consequences as well. Because it's, if they're doing it at school, they're doing it at home. If it's okay at home, why is it not okay at school? And so I think having parents involved in the consequences is important.
For sure. Yeah. Behavior resolutions. So that's kind of progressive there. So student conference.
Which I think can be a
warnings.
different definition again. Because for us, we use that more as when we have to do a conflict mediation.
Oh.
It's not just talking to kids, so you can see there's some difference in interpretation of it. I know that both Amy's team and my team are obviously talking to the kids about it and trying to get to the bottom of it, no matter what you
Always.
label it. Yeah.
Always. Detentions, we have a restorative detention, so they have to work on, we use our pride behavior matrix, and so the kids identify what area they maybe aren't striving in, and then they work on an assignment in their detention time to rectify that. And if they do that too many times, then they have an essay to do. But we try to have some kind of restorative, so they're not just sitting in there doing nothing, they're actually having an assignment to work on.
I think both schools, we're trying to utilize in school when we have to more than out of school. We're really trying to not do out of school as much as possible. Sometimes you have to. Depends on the number of times the kid's been in trouble or what it is. But for the most part, we're trying to do that. And we're trying to, and I know it was mentioned earlier, trying to maybe give like a motivation. Hey, you show up every day. It's almost like good behavior, or, just trying to motivate them to where maybe we can take a day or two off of in-school suspension. If they are, doing what they're supposed to be doing and involved, and, they're not doing it again. So, yeah.
Write your essay. And our securely hall pass. So the way it works at Carson, this has been a pretty cool thing because we can really monitor. Before, we really didn't know how many kids. We had limits and we had all these rules, but we weren't sure how many kids were out there and what they were doing, how much time they were spending. So every student at Carson Middle has access to 2 passes per day. The teachers can also give a pass. So if they have used their 2 and then, oh my gosh, I'm having an emergency, the teacher can always give them 1. Students with special circumstances always, who have to use the restroom whenever they need to is fine. Each location has a time limit, or there's 2 different options. One, they have these auto passes, so like the restroom or we're going to get a drink, and we put a time limit on it so the student can say, teacher, can I go, use the restroom? She says, do a pass. They do it, and then they have so many minutes before it turns red and says, you've been out there too long. And it's just a notification for the teacher, like, hey, they've been out there a really long time. And then when they come back, they end the pass, or the teacher can give them a pass. And then we also have return trip passes. So if they go to the nurse, or like if I call a student to the office, I give them a pass, they come to me, when they leave me, I hit a button and it says they're coming back. So it gives a return time so that we can track kind of how long they've been out there, if they're going where they're supposed to go. Our hall monitor carries a tablet. So if a kid is in the hall and she says, where are you going? Then she can say, well, let's see, do you have a pass? And we have lanyards that the kids take with them, and they're all color coded, so we know what restroom they're supposed to be. So if they're in the 8th grade wing, they don't need to be all the way down in the CTE hall using the restroom. So we tried to organize it that way. We also have contact control, which is nice. So if we have 2 kiddos that we don't want to have a pass at the same time, we can enter them. And so when they go to apply for a pass, it'll say, oh, you can't be out there right now. Somebody's out there that you can't be with. And so we do that for all kinds of reasons. And that's really reassuring to parents too, who've had maybe a bullying situation. We can say, you know what, I can make sure that your child is not in the hall at the same time as the other student, or do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. We also have caps on specific locations. So like only 2 people can be in this boys' restroom at one time. And if there's more than 2, then the passes are held until somebody gets back, and then they'll let somebody else go. We used to be 3, and then we had some trouble in the bathroom. So it went down to 2 right now until spring break. And then we can after the Easter eggs and the ink. And then we'll try to up it. And then we can also tell how long, how much, like I can look up a student and say, oh, you've been out of the classroom for this much time. We're still trying to refine that because sometimes teachers and students aren't great at ending the pass. So sometimes that time just runs. So it's a little bit hard to tell, but we can also see who our biggest pass users are and how much time they spend in the hall. Our location, our 7th grade, for the first semester, 7th grade boys' bathroom was the most popular place. Followed by the 8th grade girls. Yep, that's about right. But you can kind of see how many passes were written to each place. There are others, but I didn't include them. But our TAs have, our teachers' assistants who go out in the halls have passes. Our leadership kids, they can write a pass. Appointment passes, so if a teacher wants a student at lunch, they can write a pass and say, come see me at lunch. And then we have somebody who stands there at the ledge letting kids go and they can check the pass that, oh yeah, you're supposed, your teacher does have an appointment for you. It just gives us a little bit more control and supervision over, because middle schoolers without a lot of supervision sometimes don't make the best decisions.
Somehow we believe you that.
Yeah.
Ours is going to be similar. It's cool. I've got an app on my phone. So like at lunch, if I'm the one in supervising lunch, kid will say, I have a digital pass and I've got their name. I'm like, yep, you're good to go. So it's helped, even during that time, rather than different passes, different teachers. Oh, I don't have a pass. My teacher wants me to come in for math. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's where you're actually supposed to be. So it's helped with that as well. I ran it a little bit differently just by grade levels and kind of like by the month. And so we did that so that we could kind of show what the average time. Now, again, this is somewhat accurate. I think it's probably a little bit long because of what Amy said earlier. Sometimes we forget to end a pass. And so the average time out of class for the year so far has been like 2 hours. But you think about it, kind of going to the bathroom, getting drinks, going to run errands. Whatever it is you need to go do that the kids are doing. I think that's a little bit higher than it probably really is, just because of the ending of the pass. We give 5 passes per week. And again, we can adjust that depending on issues in the school. That's what's cool about this is it's interactive. We can change the settings through this all the time. Again, if you have an emergency, like kids with 504s, maybe they have a medical condition or something, we can specialize their pass system as well. And then there's no questions from the teachers, and again, like we have, it's nice because you can even drill down, like we have 3 students that every week they use every pass. So those are the kids that we're maybe bringing in and talking to about what's going on, and maybe focusing on them and seeing what's really going on with them. So it's even allowed us to monitor the kids a little bit more that might be, having more than just going to the bathroom. They're avoiding class for some reason. They don't want to be in class for some reason. So it's nice that this system has actually allowed us to kind of drill down and get to know our kids a little bit better and be a little more prescriptive with some of our kids.
Is that really October to November?
What's that?
Yeah, it jumped, huh?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a
Well,
huge-
now remember, we did not start. We got a late start.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just implemented ours like in late October. We were toying with it and trying to get everything set up, and finally we're like, let's just dive in. And you can see what happened when we dove in. Numbers go up to about 4,000. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody went anywhere.
We didn't let him drink water that month, Molly.
It also helps, we use it for our tardies too. We can monitor tardies much more closely than we have been
Yeah.
able to in the past. So we have more immediate, like you're tardy twice, you do lunch cleanup. And so it's much more immediate. And so now kids they're getting a little better about getting to class on time, and it's helped with that. So some of our celebrations, that e-hall pass system has been a great success. Our Yonder phone pouches, huge difference. It's just made it so much easier. Using our PBIS points, our attendance rates. So our state chronic absenteeism rate last year overall was 28.8%, and as of March 11th, Carson Middle was at 23.3. So we're getting there, and we'll just keep plugging away at it, try to get it lower and lower.
We're happy we're the lowest of the secondary. We
Yeah.
went up a little bit here this last month, but we were down, below 20%. And that's the first time since COVID, that's for sure, that we've been below 20. So we're hoping, that's going to be down. We'd like to get it down to like 18 would be sweet. The elementary school is still kind of kicking us, but they're elementary kids. They're so cute and they want to be in school. Middle schooler kids, not so much.
what would you say is helping with the improvement?
I think-
Congratulations on the improvement, by the way.
Yeah.
But what would you say is helping?
For us, I think it's a lot of what we talked about earlier about just trying to get the kids to want to come to school and to reward those things and to reward the parents of those kids. You know, even as parents, they like to hear that their kid's doing a good job. I got to tell you a quick story. I love with our PBIS points, they can buy a positive phone call home. So with PBIS points, you can get anything. You can get pizza, you can get donuts, you can get school supplies, you can get little trinkets, you can get bracelets. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And it's so funny. The kids that use their points to make a positive phone call home, to me, that's special because they care what their parents think. And I won't make the call if the kid doesn't deserve it. I've only had to deny one kid. I'm like, let's work on this so I can do this later. But the kids come in, and it's great because I get to call the parents, and I always tell the parents, this is as good for me as it is for your kid, quite honestly. I had a mom literally crying today because she was so happy. Because she, first of all, this Dr. Conley from Eagle Valley, she's like, what? I said, and the girls laugh, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't fake it with your mom. She wanted me to pretend that she was in trouble, and I couldn't do it. But I mean, the mom was so happy. And so I think it's a matter of the kids wanting to be there and the parents understanding that we're trying to do our best. We're not perfect, but we're trying to recognize what they're doing and we're trying to support them. To me, again, I think it all comes down to kids wanting to be a part of their education and wanting to be at school, and us trying to just highlight the positives of education and what they can get at school.
And I ditto, but I also have, I advertise at every chance I can get that the state law is that they need to be there
Yeah.
90% of the time.
That's a good
So
one, too.
I use that a lot. And that has made, I get a lot of phone calls. Well, I know that my kid's supposed to be there. And so it's amped it up a little bit. You know, it's put that pressure a little bit back on there that this is the law and that they need to be here. That's what they should be doing. So we base a lot on that attendance. And I think I do letters, I do parent squares. I think that's helped too. And then some other celebrations, we've started intramural sports. We do some volleyball and soccer, that just trying to reach different kids. And then we started our color guard, which is kind of like the flag team. I know. They're so excited, and they went to their first competition and got second place. So it's super exciting. So it's just reaching a different group of kids. So that's a celebration too. Yeah. And that's the end.
Well, congratulations. This is an
That was
amazing
all.
Yeah.
presentation. We appreciate it. And I want to commend you for not giving up on those parents. I know you guys are trying, and I know I have gone to some of the events that you guys have done, and I think it's been a great turnout. I especially appreciated the attendance that I saw at the morning breakfast
Yeah.
events
That's
that you
neat.
did, Dr. Conley. I think that parents are willing to get up earlier and go to an event than going later in the evening.
Yeah, maybe, huh?
And so if we're able to use a model for both schools, I think you guys will see an increase in parent involvement.
Well, look how many parents drop their kids off, right? And if you get them there and keep them there,
Exactly.
that is easier. I think that's a good point. It's funny. I'm glad you said that because we've always kind of thought about, is right after school better, or is it better if you do it right at 5:30 when they're getting off work, or do you do it at 7 after they've had dinner? I don't think any of those are probably as good as in the morning because it's tough
It is.
after a long day of work
Yeah.
and then going and your kid's like, I got to go back to school. I think that might be a very good approach.
I think that you would see an increase. I
Yeah.
really do. And then the other idea was to, and I know I've said this before, and Tasha's going to remember this. I think having that second parent student conference, because it is my understanding you guys are only having once,
We do
correct?
one, yeah.
So I think that having that second parent student conference will continue and, increasing the interest of the parents having a dialogue with the teachers, with the staff from the
Yeah.
schools. I really do. I think that's another way to get parents at the schools. So, but thank you guys so much for this presentation. Comments
Absolutely.
from the board?
Yes, thank you both for that, and thank you for adding in the additional information over the weekend. I know you did that, so I greatly appreciate it. So if there was any, way that the board can better support your efforts in, addressing the behavior, the attendance, the vaping, the challenges, or even the, the positives as well, what would it be? Well,
Jeez, Molly.
I know you mentioned transportation.
Yeah.
And I believe everybody took note of that as well. And, that is something that we could possibly help with. And you don't have to answer it now, but
Yeah.
just please know that I think we're all open to supporting your efforts, the efforts of your staff, to better make sure that both middle schools are successful. So, later, please know that I think all of us would be open to any of your
Thank you.
suggestions on how we
Thank you.
might be able
Absolutely.
to support you.
And we always appreciate all of the support. We always feel from everybody on the board. We always feel very supported, and it's nice to have you at events, and that's very. But thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much. Very, very
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time. Okay. Agenda item number 11, presentation and discussion on budget assumptions for the Carson City School District for fiscal year 2025-2026 to include an update on the grants program. And this is for discussion only. And welcome, Mr. Winward.
President Ramirez, just for the record, it should be clear that Trustee Peterson left at about 8:45, so you have 6 trustees remaining.
Thank you, that's right. Thank you for pointing that out.
All righty. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I've gauged this by the drinks that people have. I know that he's got a can of Diet Coke, a 20-ounce and a liter. I'm going to see if we can get this presentation before we get to you needing a 2-liter bottle of your favorite beverage there, favorite board-approved beverage. So just a little bit of update. We were here about a month ago, kind of talked about some things. The scariest part of that was we were, as of kind of taking a copy of our FY25 data, FY26, plus everything that we knew, PERS adjustments, we were looking at that $4.9 million deficit. So going to just kind of update some information there, and also as part of that, you guys request a little bit of information regarding grants. So we'll talk a little bit about just the grant funding overview in general, and kind of a breakdown of our positions budgeted, which funds they come from. And then we'll kind of get to the revenue assumptions and expense assumptions. So feel free to stop me throughout if you have questions. I'll try and stop here and there, but if you have something that's burning, we can go for there. So I wanted to start this out. This is a slide from training that NASB offered just a couple weeks ago. It talks just a little bit about funds. Again, in these board meetings, we talk the most about the general fund because that's where most of things happened. It's where the board's got the most control. As we move to the right of this screen, we have our special revenue funds. Examples of that would be special education. Our state and federal grants are special revenue funds. The PCFP, EL, GATE, and at-risk funds are special revenue funds. Those are examples of those. And they're a little more restricted, right? We have some certain things that we can spend those on. We can't just spend them as we see fit like we can the general fund. And then just really quick, capital project fund, that's for capital improvements. Just a quick example, we couldn't, if we had $100,000 to reseal the bricks on a school building, we can't decide, hey, let's pull that out and hire a teacher instead. So that's an example of how that's more restrictive than general funds. And then debt service, which covers our bond payments. And that's really what those essentially can be used for. So again, today we're just going to be talking about general fund and a couple of special revenue funds for the state and federal funds, but just kind of wanted to give you just this quick overview of those buckets of funding that we have. So just a quick look of the grants that we have. These all live in 4 of our special revenue funds: local grants, private grants, state grants, federal grants. Local and private combined, we have 48 different projects in there, different funds. And those can vary from, a lot of them will start out some as small as $1,000, $5,000 up to about $150,000, $200,000, depending. And that varies from year to year a little bit. Currently for FY25, we have $362,000 in those funds. And those are all managed by our grants department. And unfortunately, sometimes a $5,000 grant takes about as much monitoring and compliance as much larger grants do. So they do a very good job of making sure that people that have shared their funds with us to help out students, that we observe their wishes and obey the laws and do everything we're supposed to with those. State grants, obviously this number is a lot smaller since the advent of the PCFP. We have 6 of those. SB 231 is included in that for the FY25. That's 4.3 million total. 2.5-ish of that is SB 231. So this would be an example of, if that first slide, those special revenue funds, SB 231 lives in that column. For the FY26, it's moving to the general fund column. So it'll look a little bit different. I don't know that everyone knows exactly how that'll look, but it'll, if you're looking at general fund numbers from FY25 to FY26, keep that in mind, that there's that 2.6 million that didn't show up in general fund that will show up next year, but it's not necessarily new funding. Federal grants, we've got about 11.5 million for this year. And that's because we have some multi-year awards in there. There's 36 different ones of those. For example, you might have a Title 1D for an FY23 award, an FY24 award, and an FY25 award. So that's could be 3 separate projects that are in that 36, but they have to be managed separately and spent and tracked separately. So just a few of the things that our grants department does, they're wonderful, which, by the way, they volunteered to be here tonight. I told them that wasn't necessary. So they're probably watching along and will let me know if I screw up too bad.
Do you find that out of the 36 federal grants, the majority of them are in the special revenue fund?
Well, all of them are special revenue funds. That's where all the federal grants live.
Oh, okay.
But and of those 36, so we keep track of it by project because we have to track all of those separately to make sure that we spend them on what we're supposed to. Again, because those special revenue funds have more restrictions than the general fund does. So all told, that's just right around 100 different little things that are being tracked and monitored on a per expenditure basis. And again, you guys had some interest in knowing how many of our positions are paid for out of grants. So I just have a broke down, and I have a beautiful pie chart. If any of you like pie charts, I'm proud of this. So, but this shows we have just over 600 positions that are funded general fund. Our PCFP, again, that's our EL, our at-risk and gate funds. There's 56 positions in there. There's 88.5 in grants, 144.5 in special education, 43 nutrition, and other is 1.7. A lot of those are partial, like we might have someone that's 80% general funded, 20% workers comp funded because they manage that, but it's not a one full FTE. So for all intents and purposes, those others are kind of the same as general. Not really a large number as far as that. So, and then the pie chart just kind of gives you a visual of how much of that funding comes from each one, and it's color coded to match the number there. If you'll notice the grant section, that green olive-ish color is broken out, because the next slide I'm just going to kind of break down those grants positions. Because if we have 88.5, that's a lot in grants, but a lot of those are because we have grants that are specific to funding. So one of those is pre-K. There's 18 positions in there, and that grant is specifically to pay for those positions. So it's not like there's a lot of flexibility in, hey, let's move this to somewhere else or let's change our funding. Special education related, very similar. So IDEA is the bulk of those. 32.5 of those grant funded positions are unique to special education to fulfill the needs that we have there.
So I have a question in my head, and I'm going to try very hard to get it out to where it's understandable. But do you ever find then, so within the grants, you have, so you have 11.5 million federal grants. And like you said, that is a lot of restricted, funding. Do you ever find then in order, which is a program, right? Or it's program based, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever find then, in order to do that program, that you have to go into the general fund to support that? Or is it a hard, like this is do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it is any of that, so the 88.5 positions are in grants, but in any of that general fund, are any of those positions supporting a grant project is, I guess, the best way of saying it.
They can be. We'll have same objectives that are handled by general fund dollars and federal grant dollars, or that. So maybe a good example would be is our PCFP fund, so EL. If you notice, we have some transfers from general fund to EL to cover that. So it's more common in those to have those transfers from general fund to that. From general fund to special education, we have a very large transfer. You don't really see the transfers from general education to the special revenue grant funds. But yes, there might be a case where, hey, here is $200,000 to do this. And when it's all said and done, we know it's going to take more than 200,000, but we don't really transfer from general fund to that. It's just kind of tracked separately. And we do have some ways to do that. Adult education is when we have some general fund expenses that are tied to that, that we use to support that program. But we don't make a transfer from general fund to our special education fund or our adult education fund. So does that clarify answer your question there? All righty. And then Title I positions, we have 10, and then other, there's 18. Some of those are kind of onesie twosies. Our social workers in that 18, just for kind of the sake of time, and I didn't break each one of those out. Any questions? Any other questions up to this point? All righty. So this is a slide from last month's presentation, and it is exactly the same. We're making no changes to our estimation of the revenue we're going to receive. We're still looking at that 80.8 million for general fund revenues. If you looked at maybe documentation the state would send us, it's going to be that 80.8 plus the 2.6 million of SB 231. That's all going to be represented in the general fund again, because they're saying, hey, instead of keeping track of this SB 231 as a special revenue account, we're going to slide it over to this column we just made up in the general fund. So as we know more of how that'll look, we'll share more. And I think by the time we get to our final budget, we'll know a little bit more of what that'll look like, and perhaps have some more guidance from the state as well, just so there's some continuity, because it's the kind of thing that if you leave it up to 17 school districts on how to do that, even with some light parameters, you'll get 17 different answers. So the bottom line is the revenues staying the same. For our expense assumptions, I just wanted to show a little bit that PERS increase is really a large chunk of that deficit we're looking at, 1.8 million. And so this is just kind of a little table to show an illustration of what PERS looks like this year at the 33.5%, what it's going to look like starting July 1st of next year. Just kind of some price points. 35,000, maybe some of what of our year-round classified positions would be starting at. That's $11,700 this year. That's $12,860 next year. So it's almost $1,140 increase at $35,000.
Now, is that a state mandate?
That is a
PERS
state
increase?
mandate. That is, there's
So it
no
was
negotiating on that.
And it was a state unfunded mandate. Is that correct?
I would consider it unfunded.
What?
I would consider it unfunded.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's not mandated as far as it's not going to come in through NRS, but as being members of the PERS program, it's written that when those increases come, that we accept those. So there's no, we can't back out of PERS, or we can't say we don't agree with this.
We can't say
we
that
can,
we don't want
but
that increase?
What's that?
Can any school district or any government entity say that they can't afford that increase?
We could say that, and I'm not sure what the response would be from the state.
Well, I mean, I don't.
It is large. Police, fire
It is
unions,
huge.
it hits because they're on kind of some different schedules, and it's a lot of money to come up with. So, and I know that there's districts that are really struggling with, how to make that work out. So, again, just 35,000. 50,000, I changed that number because 53,283 is what our teachers start at. So we're looking at an additional $1,730 expense to cover that benefit for teachers. And then 75,000, 100,000, just to kind of give you some ideas of what that cost looks like, kind of on almost a per salary basis.
I think the bottom line is, right now what we're realizing is everything is so much more expensive than we're used to. But it's like, as a district, we're going to have to start taking that into consideration and tightening our belt and saving where we can, because that's quite an expense, so.
Well, and people should realize also that right now, the district's paying 100% of the PERS. Just so people realize that that's $36,000 on top of their salary.
Yeah, I kind of look at it, for every $3 that I earn, my employers kind of have to put another dollar in my retirement, which that sounds like 25%, but really at a 33-ish% split, that's, every $3 you're getting, one's going to your retirement, which is a wonderful benefit. But again, you will hear that
That's what I
talked
was going
about.
to say. That's a big benefit.
If someone's looking for more money in their pocket now, they're maybe not thinking of the future and would like to see that amount change. But we don't have a whole lot of say in that, other than we just have to be creative in how we can make that happen. So
A lot of school districts do 100%.
I did just happen to glance. So 12 of the 17 districts are 100% the same as we are. Washoe is split. They're certified as 100%, so non-choice as we are. They're classified our choice. So it's the majority of them are. I believe Clark is choice. So they are the largest one, of course, but the majority of the districts are the same as Carson City in being a non-choice agency or employer paid.
Just so people understand, when you say choice, you mean that the employee has to pay part? Or
Yeah, they can choose to where the employee pays 50% of the PERS contribution and the employer pays 50%, or the employer pays 100%. They can choose that option.
And if they pay 100% and then they take a reduction in salary, is that correct?
Yes. So, and that was established about 1983, I believe. And now it is now, I believe, yeah. So great benefit, but great benefits come at a cost. So kind of the bottom line, again, this is kind of a slide from last year. We were looking at that 4.9 million deficit. As you see, our revenue numbers haven't changed, that 80.8 million. Our expenditures we've reduced. From the last slide, we said that things that would change it are staff turnover, non-staffing costs. Largely, again, this is thank you to board members for allowing the early notification incentive for retirees. That allows us to have this data in time to really make this determination earlier in the year than it was previously. Because we've had most of our people are going to retire, let us know so we can go in and adjust our expenditures budgeting to reflect more what it will actually be, as opposed to finding out on May 15th that they're going to retire in 2 weeks. So this is largely due to us having that early retirement incentive. I find great value in it for budgeting. And as we've made those adjustments, that's reduced our expenditure from 85.7 million to 84.3, which directly takes our deficit from 4.9 million to 3.5, which is very close. I think if knowing that there's 1.8 million of PERS calculated into that puts us pretty close to where we've been in previous years of where we've budgeted for a deficit around $1 to $2 million. So,
and there's still a chance that, we could have some promising economic forecasting in May or whatever.
Yeah, those, our revenue numbers aren't set in stone. They may, at this point, I wouldn't change them until I hear anything else. So, but my fingers are crossed as I said that. All righty. Any questions regarding budgeting or?
No, I just appreciate you bringing this to us, as frequently as you are, as we're coming down, to the approval of it. I appreciate the information. I appreciate, meeting with you as well, trying to get to wrap around, because even 3.5 million is not comfortable by no means, but I appreciate you bringing it down some as well. Yeah, so thank you, and I look forward to the next one. Because then we're anticipating it to continue to go down each presentation, right?
Did you have your fingers and toes crossed when you said that?
They are right now. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good news. This is looking better. Anybody else, questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you so much for the presentation and for keeping us updated on the budget.
You are very welcome.
Okay. Poor Superintendent Phil, hang in there. We're almost done. I'm so sorry. Okay, so agenda item number 12. Discussion on the possibility of having one monthly meeting of the CCSD School Board of Trustees. And this is for discussion only. Trustee Walker?
So had this conversation a couple years ago, and we readjusted our schedule, started meeting at 6:30 to see about making our meetings more efficient. And I think that with efficiency of our meetings as well as strategically scheduling of our agendas, we're seeing that there is room to consolidate. There are certain times of the year we know we're going to have 2 meetings a month. But I think that those months that we don't have as much and we could get all the business done in one night, I think that for our staff's sake especially, because that's a lot of time spent preparing for board meetings and, getting to work at 7 a.m. and then stay until 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's taxing on them. And if you look at our bylaws, it says that if needed, the second meeting would be on the 4th Tuesday. So I just think we have room to consolidate these meetings and really be more efficient with our time and help everybody out in the process.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the board? Molly?
I just think it would be easier to cancel meetings than to go, because like we cancel one in July, we cancel one in November, we cancel one in December. I just think being able to keep it as is, and then if there's need to cancel it, it's easier than to have to change everything. Just say, we don't need this meeting, so we're going to go ahead and cancel it. And then you're down to one meeting a month. That's
And honestly, for me, I'll never have just one meeting a month, at least in this present reality I live in. But I think for the district, that's what I'm saying, is to be more efficient with those meetings. It's not personally me, because if I'm not at these meetings, I'm at a different meeting most times. So just putting that out there.
Richard?
Yeah, I have several things here. One of the things that I've been asking for quite a while, and we had it tonight, is more focus on student achievement, which we really haven't had as much in the past. If we get more focused on student achievement, that's going to add to our agenda. So it's not going to reduce it, it's going to add to it. So my fear is, even tonight, we had it's 3.5 hours almost meeting tonight. And the last meeting we had was a light agenda, and it was still 2.5 hours. So if we stick with even that agenda, then add other things to it, it's not going to be 2.5 hours. It's going to be 3 or 4 hours. And I don't know if people want to get involved in that. I think by having bi-monthly meetings, and there's been some talk about how many people really attend the board meetings or how many people listen to the board meetings. But I just feel that it gives the public more opportunity to hear what's happening in the district. And I think that's an important thing. When we ran for the board, we knew the commitment and we knew what our responsibilities were going to be. And I just think that we ought to continue. It hasn't been really an imposition other than maybe some of the staff, but for us to make it, because, we make a 2.5 hour meeting every 2 weeks. It's not that big a deal really, but I don't want to be going into a 5-hour meeting. I think it would allow more time to discuss issues more in depth. I wouldn't want to get to an agenda or a night where we skip over things just because we don't want the meeting to go longer. So I think that's an important thing.
And I would just say that probably, well, not even probably, if you look at our last several agendas, a lot of those could have been consolidated into one meeting. And so I don't think anybody's saying that we would cut things out or eliminate discussions. But I think that some of it is we could be more efficient with our presentations and our questioning, and we could look at procedures and consolidate where appropriate. And I think that there's, a lot of meetings that we're here very briefly, and there's one business item. And so I think that that is something to look at, is it's a lot of time put into, a lot of resources from the district put into planning for that meeting, and we have one business item, one action item. And so some of that we could start looking at reports that are written and provided, which we would read through and ask questions at the appropriate time if needed, or schedule time with staff members to get follow-up. But I think that when you look at the business items, we haven't had a lot of business items. And so that's what we're here for, is, that official action. And so we could consolidate a little bit.
And I think that's what it goes to, is if there's just, one business item, then, AJ, Renee kind of throw it out to the board saying there's one business item. President and vice president, do you want to have a meeting or not? And then so rather than changing the written word, then they kind of just say, we have one, so we're going to cancel this meeting this month and bring it to the next month, rather than change the written word.
And I do think that that's part of the conversation, because in the bylaw it does allow for that. But I mean, because right now there's just this practice that we just do that. And so that's part of the conversation of, that progression.
Sorry. I think that happens then between the three of you at that point, saying, do we need a second meeting, that month with what's on, because don't you three participate in planning the agenda? Yeah. Then I think at that point, then you would decide whether or not a second meeting or first meeting of the month, whatever the case may be, is needed. Yeah.
And I would agree with Molly. It's easier to cancel a meeting than to add a meeting. I see your point. I mean, if there's one item, but I'm trying to search my mind, and I can't really think of many agendas where there's only been one item.
I believe the last meeting we had 2 items.
Yeah, but that still took 2.5 hours.
But it's not very, from my recollection, it's not very frequently that we have
Yeah, it's not
only 2
very
items.
often we have
Right.
1 or 2 items.
Right.
And like I said, I'll repeat myself one more time. The last meeting we had 1 or 2 items, it still took 2.5 hours.
Mhm. So I would like to hear from the other 2 trustees, if I may. Rebecca, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just wondering what, if I'm not mistaken, several other districts in the state are working well on one meeting. Is that correct? So yeah, I know it. I agree with you, Mike, with how much staff puts into putting the meetings together, and how some of them have been, like you said, not as many business items. I do agree with you as well, Molly, with that point of like looking it over beforehand and just saying, hey, look, there's not a lot going on, so it's not needed. I kind of see both sides of it, so I appreciate that perspective on it, Molly, as well, to just kind of take it as needed.
Okay. Thank you. How about you, Matt?
I haven't really formed an opinion, I guess. A lot more questions in my mind. I do agree with Richard that, a lot of the research is showing that we need to talk about more student achievement. And we're not doing a whole lot of that yet. And so that's going to add more I like the idea of the staff only having to do it once a month and preparing, because I know it's a lot of effort on everyone's part, getting paperwork out. And then I also don't like our staff here having to stay super, super late on long nights. I know some maybe even live in Reno or Minden. It's a long drive. And I think if we do go to one night, you know, here we are at 3 hours, you know, are we going to be here till midnight once a month? I don't like that idea. So, I mean, if we can consolidate and get rid of a lot of the random talking that we're doing and really isolate our questions and pinpoint what we want, or, you know, just make sure we're asking questions in an email prior to and getting the answers we want, I think it can be done. I think we really just need to hone in on what's important, but I also don't want to lose the important aspects that we're going for as we move forward into, like, I don't want to say a new direction, but just maybe, you know, following some of that research that we've been learning about as well. So I would support either, like coming on the board, I knew two nights a month and then some other stuff. I support that. I'm up for it. My family's for it. But one night a month also sounds pretty awesome. So I'd be interested just to kind of evaluate. I've wrote some questions for myself, you know, just really what are my thoughts, and writing kind of what you guys are talking about. And I guess just weighing what's really important for the district, I think, is more important. What's more important for the district staff? Not so much for us, but the district staff, I think, because we want them to be efficient as well. So that's where my thoughts are right now.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel the same way. I feel like I mean, I see both sides as well. I do see the importance of taking our time to discuss the subject matters that we have on the agenda and not be rushed. And I also agree with the comments that you guys already mentioned about not wanting to be here till midnight, because I don't think we would be as effective. I think we would be exhausted and not be fully present. So the one question I ask, is it possible to see what type of savings the district would have if we were to see in terms of the time that our staff is here, twice a month versus once a month, to see if that's something that we would be interested in looking at, the cost saving, if you will? Sorry? Do you want to use?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's necessarily a cost savings. It's more time resource savings, I think, just in terms of the preparation.
The preparation for the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the idea of, you know, it's interesting looking at the bylaw and the way it's written, and I think, I don't know when it started, but it just that second meeting just kind of became standard, even though it really doesn't read that way in here. But I think if there's, you know, at least understanding that, you know, we as a, I guess, a goal, if we can consolidate a meeting down to one in a month, that we're okay with doing that and canceling the meeting. I mean, I think that's at least a starting point, right? And we can see how it goes. And
How it goes.
I think there'll be months where maybe it doesn't make as much sense just based on what's happening. I mean, I don't think we should invite Lee Conley ever again. He talks a lot.
I enjoyed his presentation.
You know, to add to that, I mean, I'm not like saying, oh no, adamantly have to have 2 a month. I'm just saying is, you know, you look at it and you know best, and Renee knows best what months we wouldn't have so many items on there. So then you can determine that. You can forecast that probably right now for next year. We know we don't have one. We have one in November, one meeting, one in December, normally one in July, because that's when when you're going, so you look at that and say, okay, what are that? And you just
This
go
time of
with
year,
that.
it's gonna be, there's a lot of stuff going on at the end of the year, so that's but you're looking at those summer meetings. We can condense a lot of that into a meeting, and so I think there's a lot of flexibility, and there are savings that could be accounted for in that process.
Can I add another question? Do we know, like, the individuals that are putting stuff together, so Renee and whoever's helping her, Dan, and putting all this stuff together, do we know how much time they're doing for each meeting? I mean, roughly, is there like, I'm spending, 12 hours per each meeting, and if I do one meeting, it will only take 14 hours all month versus 24? I would totally support that if we knew it.
That's a really good question. I don't think we've ever broken it down
It's
that
just,
way.
it's just an idea or a thought, because it's, each time you print off all these things, just standing at the printer, takes probably a ton of time. And then there's a guy that's delivering it.
Deliver packets and whatnot, yeah.
Print them off.
Right, about maybe once a month or whatever. I don't know. It's just a thought. And then my other thought was, it's kind of a dumb analogy, but I don't like the idea of canceling, because I feel like it's having a regular schedule is nice. I feel like it's like the restaurant that you go to that you're wanting to go to, but it's not open. And it's kind of like my office in Dayton. Like, the mailman is like, you guys are never here. And it's like, we are there, but not when they show up. And I just don't want people to come here thinking they're going to show up to YouTube and watch, or they're going to be like, and they're like, they're never there. Those guys are worthless. And I don't want that for the community.
I think there's definitely, we would have to kind of think through the process and adjust in terms of the timing of how, like, some of those things happen and notice goes out and all that for that reason. You certainly don't want someone showing up just expecting there's a meeting happening.
If I could too, somebody mentioned about asking the questions in advance and getting the answers to them. A lot of us do that, but then we'll ask the question during the public meeting so the public understands or knows the answer to it, instead of just not bringing it up at all. That's the way I feel is, we're providing, by our questions, sometimes we're providing information to the public, even though we know the answer.
Or some answers bring up additional questions, and so
Right.
that lingers the conversation.
And so I would be opposed, I know we're not taking a vote, but I'd be opposed to going to once a month.
Okay, so then, do we want to take this is just a discussion item, yes. So at this point in time, do we want to bring it up again for a vote, or do we want to take a vote, or how do you feel? You brought up the agenda item, so.
I brought it up, but I wasn't the only one who's bringing
True,
it up.
true, true.
So
Yeah.
let's be clear about that.
We have you assigned to the agenda item, so there. No.
I think we have some requests of staff to kind of consolidate how much time and preparation goes into that. And I think that we can be a little bit more concise with questioning and deliberations and presentations. And if you have specific questions you want to pose, of course you're going to pose them. But, if you have 15 questions, then probably you're going to want to work with staff a little bit more and get prepared for the meetings. So
Then what I would ask then, because I asked this, I think, twice in my first year, we don't see these presentations. 90% of these presentations we don't get and we don't see until the day of the meeting. It's very hard to generate questions when you're seeing it for the first time. I specifically asked for this middle school one on Friday and said, is there any way that we could please get your presentation, because it wasn't in our packet. And I said, could we please get this presentation prior to the meeting so we can generate questions? And which is why you saw the behavior and the securely pass and all of that within there, because that was part of my questions. And so I try to do that consciously, because this is what I did when I was on the Board of Supervisors, is you got it and you got your packet, you generated the questions, you gave it to the department heads and said, these are the questions that I would like within your presentation. So if you could have those questions answered, that would be great. Then I don't have to ask them. But we were able to get those presentations prior to, I mean, we got them like 7 days in advance. So,
To that same point, and I don't disagree with you about that, I think that if they were preparing for one meeting a month, that would give them time to get those reports to us with time to go through them and ask clarifying questions. But with the current system, it's a continual, they're preparing the next presentation. And so there's so much turnaround that it's like there's always, every other week, they're trying to get these presentations out to us, and that gives them time to get the presentations out to us for us to look at, ask questions, and then prepare for the meetings. So,
well, I thought they all know. Like middle school was this time last year and this time the year before. High school's the same time. So I thought they kind of all already know when they're going to be on the agenda. Is that not the case? Yeah. Right. Yeah, so.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The superintendent doesn't say, have your presentation to me by Tuesday. They don't know to prepare.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, that's, and then I do agree with Richard as well. A lot of times you do ask the question so the public gets it, so the newspaper gets it, you know, to where these are the questions that we're asking that we feel are important for the public to know. So you're going to ask those questions even though you've prepared staff for them because you want it on record, you know, on that aspect as well. So I agree with Richard on that end as well.
I just hate to see us go to five-hour meetings.
So then do we have a consensus that we are keeping it as is and then as
Vice
we?
President, sorry, I want to be really clear that we are not building a consensus on a
No,
discussion.
no consensus, sorry, thank you. Okay, so then I should ask, are there any further discussions on this agenda item? Is there any other, no further discussion? Okay, well, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 13, approval of consent agenda, and this is for possible action.
So moved.
Okay, so motion by trustee Barnard, second by trustee Walt. Any board discussion? Seeing none. And any public comment? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 14, informational items, and this is for discussion only. No action will be taken. And I would imagine everyone had an opportunity to review that. Do you have any comments, any discussion? No? See none? Okay. Agenda item number 15, request for future agenda topics. And I would encourage that all of us consider bringing up agenda items in the future so we can get that lined up, and then that will kind of help us plan for the upcoming meeting. Go ahead. Rebecca?
I know there was a request for us to maybe look at the bullying policies and just with, you know, some programs that are being implemented and stuff, that might be a good idea just as a refresher and everything. Just make sure they're up to date and in line with, you know, having that student success and feeling safe and whatnot.
Thank you. I had that on my list too. So thank you for bringing that up. So yes, that definitely that's an agenda item that we need to make sure that we get on our future agenda items, which is, like you said, Rebecca, bullying policy needs to be reviewed.
And then I would like the to revisit the Carson City School District plan for restorative discipline.
Carson City School District, I'm sorry?
For the discipline plan?
The discipline,
Discipline.
the discipline. Okay. Okay. Okay, very good. Anybody else?
Just along with that would probably be for Tasha or somebody to go through the law and what we're required, because we've done that, and it's specific, like a certain time of year, the schools have to meet, the district has to meet, we have to get it out to parents, post it on the website, so there's date specifics with that, and so I think that maybe part of that is just the information about what's required. So just to help us.
Great, thank you. All righty, well, agenda item number 16, adjournment. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you.